How often do we pour ourselves out for everyone else, our family, friends, co-workers, while leaving our own cup bone dry? We celebrate the sacrifices, the long nights, and the endless selflessness as if they're badges of honor. But somewhere along the way, we forget the most crucial truth. You can't give the world your best if you're running on empty. It's easy to think that taking care of yourself is selfish. The world whispers that prioritizing your needs means neglecting others. But here's the twist. It's not selfishness. It's survival. It's the foundation on which all other relationships thrive. Loving yourself is the compass that guides you toward a life that's both fulfilling and full of meaning. Yet, so many of us resist it. Why? Because self-love gets tangled up with guilt, doubt, and fear of judgment. Let's be honest, the concept of self-love can feel foreign or even uncomfortable. Perhaps you were taught to put others first, to downplay your achievements, or to suppress your emotions for the sake of peace. But here's the reality. Neglecting your own well-being doesn't make you a saint. It makes you vulnerable. Vulnerable to burnout, resentment, and emotional exhaustion. What if there's a way to shift this mindset? A way to see self-love not as indulgence, but as a necessity? What if taking care of yourself could ripple outward, making you stronger, kinder, and more available to those who need you? That's where this journey begins. Aisha was the glue that held her family together. She worked long hours at a job she didn't particularly love, but it paid the bills and kept her kids in school. At home, she was the problem solver, the peacemaker, the one who made sure everyone else was okay. Whether it was late-night homework crises or her parents' health checkups, she never hesitated to step in. She was the kind of person people leaned on because she always said yes with a smile, even when her heart screamed no. But beneath the surface, Aisha was tired, bone tired. There was a tightness in her chest she couldn't shake, a weariness that sleep never seemed to cure. She kept telling herself that things would get better, that if she could just push a little harder, everyone would be happy. Yet the harder she pushed, the more invisible she felt. Her breaking point came on an ordinary Tuesday. She was driving her kids to school when her youngest asked, "Mom, why are you always so angry?" The question hit her like a freight train. Angry. She didn't think of herself as angry. But then she realized her quick temper, her irritation at the smallest inconveniences, her snapping at loved ones. They weren't anger, they were exhaustion. She was pouring everything she had into everyone else and leaving nothing for herself. Later that night, as she stared at the pile of laundry she still needed to fold, something shifted in her. It wasn't a dramatic epiphany, just a quiet realization. This isn't sustainable. Something has to change. Aisha started small. She set aside 10 minutes every morning for herself. Not for the kids, not for her husband, just her. At first it felt selfish. She worried about the dishes in the sink or the emails she hadn't answered. But slowly, those 10 minutes became her sanctuary. She'd sip her tea without distractions, let her mind wander, or jot down her thoughts in a notebook. It wasn't much, but it was hers. Over time, Aisha began setting boundaries. She said no to commitments that drained her and yes to things that refueled her. She started taking evening walks and rediscovered her love for painting, something she hadn't done since her teenage years. The more she nurtured herself, the more she noticed a remarkable change, not just in how she felt, but in how she showed up for others. Her kids began commenting on how fun she was again. Her husband said she seemed lighter, like a weight had been lifted. Even her co-workers noticed the difference. asking her what her secret was. For the first time in years, Aisha felt alive, like she wasn't just surviving, but truly living. Aisha's story isn't extraordinary, it's universal. How many of us sacrifice our own well-being under the guise of being good parents, partners, friends, or employees? We push ourselves to the brink, convincing ourselves that rest is a luxury and self-care is selfish. But the truth is, when you ignore your own needs, you're not just hurting yourself. You're shortchanging everyone who depends on you. When Aisha started loving herself, something incredible happened. She became better for everyone around her. She was more patient, more present, and more joyful. Her self-love didn't isolate her, it connected her. And that's the magic of it. When you care for yourself, you create a ripple effect that touches everyone in your orbit. Buddhism teaches that compassion begins with yourself. You can't pour compassion into the world if your own heart is empty. Self-love isn't about putting yourself above others. It's about recognizing that your well-being is just as important as anyone else's. It's about creating balance, tending to your needs so you can meet the needs of others with an open heart. Loving yourself doesn't mean grand gestures or sweeping changes. It's found in the small, consistent acts of care that remind you that you matter. It's choosing to rest when you're tired, to speak kindly to yourself when you make mistakes, to listen to your needs without brushing them aside. It's also about reframing your mindset. Instead of seeing self-care as selfish, view it as an act of generosity. Think about it. When you're well-rested and emotionally balanced, you bring your best self to your relationships. You're more patient with your children, more understanding with your partner, more compassionate with your friends. Taking care of yourself isn't taking away from others. It's giving them the gift of a healthier, happier you. Aisha's journey didn't end with her newfound sense of self-love. It evolved. She continued to stumble, to have days where she felt overwhelmed or tempted to slip back into old habits. But each time she did, she reminded herself of one simple truth. She deserved the same love and care she so freely gave to others. Her story serves as a reminder to all of us. Self-love is not a destination, but a practice. It's something we choose daily, in small moments and big decisions. And while the world may try to convince us that prioritizing ourselves is selfish, the truth is far more profound. Loving yourself is the first step to truly loving others. So the next time you feel the weight of the world on your shoulders, take a moment to pause. Ask yourself, what do I need right now? Then give yourself permission to meet that need. Because when you take care of yourself, you're not just filling your own cup, you're filling the cups of everyone around you. When we talk about self-love, there's often a voice, whether from within or from society, that questions it. Is it indulgent? Does it take away from what we can give to others? But here's a deeper truth. Self-love is the root from which all love grows. Without it, we falter, burning ourselves out in an endless cycle of trying to be everything for everyone. This isn't just a modern realization, it's a cornerstone of ancient Buddhist wisdom. Compassion for others starts with compassion for yourself, and Buddhism teaches us that this self-compassion is not about ego or selfishness, but about kindness, understanding, and alignment with the interconnectedness of life. Self-compassion isn't a fleeting moment of kindness to yourself when things are tough. It's a foundation, a daily practice, and a path toward inner peace. The Buddha himself taught that you must cultivate loving kindness within your own heart before you can truly extend it to others. But what does this look like? How can we align our daily lives with this wisdom and transform the way we treat ourselves, not as an afterthought, but as an integral part of living a compassionate, meaningful life? Buddhism teaches that compassion, or karuna, begins with recognizing suffering, not just in the world around you, but within yourself. This recognition is not an act of weakness or self-pity. It's a brave acknowledgement of your humanity. To turn away from your own suffering is to deny an essential part of your experience, one that deserves care and attention. When you cultivate compassion for yourself, you begin to see your pain not as something to be avoided or judged, but as something to hold with tenderness. The Buddha often spoke of the importance of understanding suffering, calling it the first noble truth. By acknowledging your struggles, you create space to approach them with kindness rather than resistance. Think of how a mother responds to a crying child, with patience, love, and a gentle touch. Now, consider how rare it is for us to respond to our own distress in the same way. Instead, we criticize, judge, and berate ourselves, expecting perfection and punishing failure. Buddhism asks us to unlearn this harshness. The path to loving yourself starts with treating your own suffering as worthy of compassion. Kindness is at the heart of Buddhist practice. In Metta Bhavana, the meditation on loving kindness, you begin by directing love toward yourself. This is no accident. It's a profound practice that lays the groundwork for extending compassion outward. When you silently wish yourself peace, freedom from suffering, and happiness, you're not just repeating empty phrases. You're reprogramming your mind to see yourself as deserving of the same kindness you so readily offer to others. This practice is transformative because it shifts the narrative we carry about ourselves. Too often, we see our worth as tied to achievements, external validation, or the approval of others. But Buddhism challenges this notion, teaching that your inherent value does not depend on what you do or what others think of you. It comes simply from being. Recognizing this is a radical act of self-love, one that liberates you from the constant need to prove yourself. A critical element of self-compassion in Buddhism is the absence of judgment. Judgment creates a wall between you and your peace of mind. We judge ourselves for not being good enough, smart enough, or kind enough, piling on layers of guilt and shame. Buddhism reminds us that judgment is not the way. Instead, you're invited to meet yourself with curiosity and gentleness. This means looking at your thoughts, emotions, and actions without attaching labels of good or bad. It's about noticing without condemning, allowing without resisting. In this space of non-judgment, you begin to see the ways you've been carrying unnecessary burdens, the harsh inner critic, the unrealistic expectations, the fear of failure. They don't define you. They're simply mental habits that you can choose to release. This release isn't easy. It requires practice and patience, but each small step you take towards self-compassion strengthens your ability to let go of the stories that no longer serve you. The Buddhist teaching of anicca, or impermanence, plays a significant role here. Recognizing that everything is transient helps you develop a softer, more forgiving attitude toward yourself. Your mistakes, failures, and painful emotions are not permanent fixtures. They're passing experiences, like clouds moving across the sky. When you hold this perspective, it becomes easier to offer yourself compassion in moments of difficulty. You're not stuck. You're evolving. Another key to self-compassion in Buddhism is understanding that suffering is universal. This isn't meant to diminish your struggles, but to remind you that you're not alone. Everyone experiences pain, doubt, and hardship. This shared humanity is what connects us, and it's a source of comfort. When you realize that your suffering is not a personal flaw, but a natural part of life, you can approach yourself with more kindness. You see that you're not broken or unworthy. You're human. Buddhism also teaches that compassion is not just an emotion, it's an action. Loving yourself means taking tangible steps to care for your well-being. This might involve setting boundaries to protect your energy, prioritizing rest when you're tired, or nourishing your body with healthy food. These acts of self-care are not indulgent. They're expressions of compassion in action. They show that you value yourself enough to meet your needs without guilt or hesitation. One of the most powerful lessons in Buddhist self-compassion is learning to let go of the ego. The ego often tells us that we must be perfect to be loved, that we must achieve to be valued, or that we must compare ourselves to others to determine our worth. But the ego is a false guide. It keeps us trapped in cycles of fear and self-doubt. Letting go of the ego doesn't mean abandoning your identity. It means seeing yourself as part of something greater. It's about recognizing that your worth is not tied to how you measure up against others, but to the unique role you play in the interconnected web of life. Mindfulness is a cornerstone of self-compassion in Buddhism. When you're mindful, you're present with yourself, fully aware of your thoughts and feelings without being swept away by them. This awareness allows you to respond to yourself with care rather than react with criticism. Mindfulness creates a pause, a space in which you can choose kindness over judgment. It's in this pause that transformation happens. One of the most misunderstood aspects of self-love is the idea that it's selfish. Buddhism dismantles this myth by emphasizing the interconnectedness of all beings. When you love yourself, you're not taking from others. You're creating a foundation to give more freely. Think of it this way. A tree with strong roots can provide shade, shelter, and nourishment to countless creatures. But if its roots are weak, it cannot sustain itself, let alone support others. Loving yourself is about strengthening your roots so that you can be a source of strength and kindness in the world. This interconnectedness also reveals that the kindness you show yourself has a ripple effect. When you're compassionate toward yourself, it naturally extends to those around you. You become more patient, understanding, and empathetic. Your inner peace radiates outward, creating a positive impact on your relationships and community. In this way, self-love is not an isolated act. It's a contribution to the collective well-being of humanity. Self-compassion in Buddhism is also deeply intertwined with forgiveness. Forgiving yourself for past mistakes is a vital step toward loving yourself. Holding on to guilt and shame only weighs you down, keeping you stuck in the past. Forgiveness, on the other hand, frees you. It allows you to move forward with a lighter heart and a clearer mind. Buddhism teaches that forgiveness is not about excusing harmful behavior. It's about releasing the grip of anger and regret so that you can heal. Gratitude is another practice that strengthens self-compassion. When you focus on the things you appreciate about yourself, your strengths, your efforts, your resilience, you shift your mindset from criticism to celebration. Gratitude reminds you that you are enough, just as you are. It's a practice of recognizing the good within you, even as you strive to grow. Ultimately, self-compassion in Buddhism is about creating harmony within yourself. It's about treating yourself as you would a dear friend, with kindness, patience, and understanding. It's about recognizing your worth, not because of what you've done, but because of who you are, a unique and valuable part of this interconnected world. When you embrace this path, you don't just transform your relationship with yourself, you transform the way you engage with life itself. Transitioning from self-compassion to its deeper purpose, we now step into a profound realization. Self-love is not an end in itself. It's the foundation for something much greater, the ability to genuinely love and serve others. Buddhism teaches us that we cannot pour from an empty cup. The care and kindness we show ourselves create the capacity to extend that same care and kindness outward. If this seems counterintuitive, it's because so many of us have been conditioned to believe that prioritizing others means sacrificing ourselves. But what if the opposite is true? What if loving ourselves is the most essential step in truly loving others? When you think about the people you admire most for their compassion and generosity, it's unlikely they come from a place of depletion or self-neglect. Their warmth and empathy stem from an inner reservoir of balance and self-respect. This isn't coincidence. It's a reflection of Buddhist wisdom, which teaches that love flows naturally when it begins within. Loving yourself is not selfish. It's a prerequisite for showing up in the world as the best version of yourself. At the heart of this concept is the Buddhist idea of interconnectedness. Your inner state affects your outer relationships in ways you might not immediately recognize. When you're hard on yourself, that inner tension often spills over, manifesting as impatience, irritability, or emotional distance with others. Conversely, when you treat yourself with compassion, you radiate kindness, patience, and understanding. It's not about perfection. It's about creating harmony within, so you can share that harmony with others. Buddhism emphasizes that before you can fully offer compassion to others, you must first understand it within yourself. This is why many Buddhist practices begin with directing loving kindness toward oneself. It's not about prioritizing yourself over others. It's about recognizing that you are part of the whole. The love and care you give yourself ripple outward, influencing the way you connect with those around you. This perspective can be particularly transformative in relationships. Often, we expect others to fill the emotional gaps we neglect within ourselves. We look to partners, friends, or family to validate us, heal our wounds, or give us the love we withhold from ourselves. But this creates a cycle of dependency and unmet expectations. Buddhism offers a different path, one where you cultivate your own inner well-being, not to detach from others, but to engage with them more authentically and freely. When you love yourself, you release others from the burden of fixing you or meeting your every need. This doesn't mean you won't need support or connection, but it changes the nature of those relationships. Instead of seeking love from a place of lack, you can share love from a place of abundance. This shift transforms relationships from transactional to deeply fulfilling. It allows you to give without keeping score and receive without guilt, because your love is rooted in wholeness rather than neediness. In Buddhist terms, this aligns with the concept of non-attachment. Loving others doesn't mean clinging to them or expecting them to complete you. It means appreciating their presence while maintaining your own inner stability. Self-love provides the foundation for this balance. When you value yourself, you're less likely to seek validation from others or to tolerate relationships that harm you. Instead, you can approach connections with clarity and a genuine desire to give and receive love without conditions. Another important teaching is the idea of compassion as a skill that grows with practice. You wouldn't expect to master a musical instrument without practice, and the same is true for compassion. Loving yourself is the practice ground. It's where you learn patience, forgiveness, and acceptance. These qualities, cultivated within, naturally extend outward. The more you practice compassion for yourself, the more skilled you become at offering it to others, even in challenging situations. Buddhism also highlights the role of equanimity in relationships. Equanimity is the ability to maintain a calm and balanced mind, even in the face of difficulties. When you love yourself, you're better equipped to remain centered during conflicts or misunderstandings with others. You're less reactive, less likely to take things personally, and more capable of seeing situations clearly. This creates space for healthier communication and deeper connections. It's important to note that self-love is not about isolation or withdrawal. Some people fear that focusing on themselves will make them less available to others. But in truth, the opposite happens. When you take care of your own needs, you have more energy, patience, and emotional bandwidth to support those around you. It's like strengthening your body so you can carry heavier loads. You're not abandoning others. You're equipping yourself to show up for them in meaningful ways. Buddhism also teaches that loving yourself allows you to serve others without resentment. When you neglect your own needs, acts of service can start to feel like obligations rather than genuine expressions of care. Over time, this can lead to burnout, frustration, or even bitterness. But when your own well-being is a priority, service becomes a choice rather than a chore. You give not because you feel pressured or depleted, but because you're genuinely moved to contribute. This is especially important in caregiving roles, whether as a parent, partner, or friend. Caring for others can be deeply rewarding, but it can also be draining if you don't balance it with self-care. Buddhism reminds us that true compassion is sustainable only when it includes yourself. By tending to your own well-being, you ensure that your care for others comes from a place of strength rather than sacrifice. Self-love also fosters empathy by helping you understand your own emotions and struggles. When you've faced your own pain with compassion, you become more attuned to the pain of others. This doesn't mean you take on their suffering, but that you can meet them with genuine understanding and support. Your ability to empathize deepens because you know what it means to hold space for yourself, and you can offer that same presence to others. This interconnected approach to self-love and compassion also aligns with the Buddhist principle of interdependence. Your well-being is not separate from the well-being of others. When you're kind to yourself, you contribute to the collective harmony of your community. This might seem abstract, but it plays out in everyday ways. A person who feels valued and at peace is more likely to treat others with kindness, patience, and respect. These positive interactions create a ripple effect, spreading well-being far beyond your immediate circle. One of the most beautiful aspects of self-love in Buddhism is how it transforms the way you see others. When you stop judging yourself harshly, you naturally become less judgmental toward others. You begin to see their struggles, flaws, and humanity with greater compassion. This shift in perspective creates a sense of connection rather than separation. It reminds you that we're all navigating life's challenges and that kindness is always the better path. Ultimately, loving yourself allows you to approach relationships from a place of generosity rather than fear. You're not seeking to fill a void or to prove your worth through others. Instead, you're sharing the love and peace you've cultivated within. This creates relationships that are not only healthier, but also more meaningful. They become opportunities for growth, joy, and mutual support, rather than sources of stress or validation. Buddhism emphasizes that this process is a journey, not a destination. Loving yourself doesn't mean you'll never struggle or have moments of doubt, but it does mean that you have the tools to navigate those moments with grace. It means that you can return to your foundation of self-compassion no matter what challenges arise. And from that foundation, you can continue to grow, to love, and to serve others with an open and generous heart. Self-love, as Buddhism teaches, is not separate from the path of compassion. It's the starting point, the fertile ground from which all other love grows. By nurturing yourself, you not only transform your own life, but also create a ripple effect that touches everyone you meet. It's a practice, a way of being, and a gift, not just to yourself, but to the world. The wisdom of self-love, when paired with compassion for others, sets the stage for a life that thrives on mutual nourishment rather than depletion. This leads us to a profound teaching from Buddhism, the middle way. It's a path that invites us to step away from extremes, neither neglecting ourselves in service to others, nor becoming consumed by self-interest. The middle way illuminates how self-love and altruism, far from being opposing forces, can exist in harmony, each strengthening the other. This balance isn't just a philosophical ideal, it's a practice that can profoundly transform the way we live, love, and serve. Self-love is often misunderstood as indulgence, but in reality, it's the cornerstone of balance. Buddhism teaches that life flourishes in equilibrium, where our actions honor both our needs and the needs of others. When you take care of yourself, you're not withdrawing from the world, you're preparing to engage with it more meaningfully. Neglecting yourself doesn't make you a better person. It erodes the foundation from which compassion and generosity flow. Conversely, focusing solely on yourself isolates you from the interconnected nature of life. The middle way bridges this gap, offering a path where self-love and altruism coexist seamlessly. This balance starts with awareness. Awareness helps you recognize when you're leaning too far in one direction. For example, you might find yourself constantly putting others' needs ahead of your own, driven by guilt or societal expectations. Over time, this can lead to resentment, burnout, or a sense of being unappreciated. On the other hand, prioritizing your own comfort to the exclusion of others can foster disconnection and loneliness. Awareness allows you to step back and assess whether your actions are aligned with the middle way, where both self-love and care for others are honored. Intention is a critical part of this practice. When your intention is rooted in kindness for yourself and for others, you naturally create balance. Helping someone out of genuine care feels light and fulfilling, but helping out of obligation can feel heavy and draining. Similarly, taking time for yourself out of a desire to recharge feels restorative, while doing so out of avoidance can leave you feeling empty. The middle way encourages you to examine your motivations, ensuring they align with both your well-being and the greater good. Mindfulness is the tool that keeps this balance in check. It helps you pause and reflect before acting, ensuring that your choices are deliberate and not driven by habits or emotional impulses. For example, if you're feeling overwhelmed, mindfulness allows you to ask whether you need rest, connection, or perhaps a small act of kindness to restore balance. It's about tuning into the moment and responding in a way that supports harmony within and around you. This harmony is essential because self-love and altruism are deeply interconnected. Caring for yourself equips you to care for others without depleting your energy. It's like a tree that nourishes its roots so it can provide shade and shelter. If the tree neglects itself, it cannot sustain others. The middle way reminds us that by nurturing ourselves, we create the capacity to give more freely, and by giving freely, we often find nourishment in return. Equanimity plays a central role in the middle way. This state of calm and balance allows you to navigate life's complexities without being swayed by extremes. For instance, when you give to others, equanimity helps you do so without expecting anything in return. Similarly, when you take time for yourself, it helps you release feelings of guilt or selfishness. Equanimity creates a sense of steadiness, allowing you to approach self-love and altruism as complementary rather than competing priorities. The practice of non-attachment, another core Buddhist teaching, also supports this balance. Non-attachment doesn't mean detachment. It means engaging with life without clinging to outcomes. When you practice non-attachment, you can love and care for others without feeling the need to control their responses or outcomes. You can also care for yourself without becoming fixated on personal comfort or success. This flexibility allows you to adapt to the needs of each moment, whether they call for self-care or acts of service. The middle way also challenges the cultural narratives that pit self-love against altruism. Many people grow up believing that prioritizing others is virtuous, while prioritizing oneself is selfish. Buddhism dismantles this dichotomy, showing that both are essential and interdependent. When you care for yourself, you model healthy boundaries and emotional resilience, which inspire and support those around you. When you help others, you often experience a sense of purpose and fulfillment that strengthens your own well-being. These acts are not in conflict. They're two sides of the same coin. Boundaries are a practical expression of this balance. Healthy boundaries ensure that your care for others doesn't come at the expense of your own well-being. They're not about shutting people out, but about creating space where both you and others can thrive. For example, setting limits on your time and energy allows you to give fully when you choose to, rather than half-heartedly out of obligation. Boundaries also help others understand and respect your needs, fostering healthier and more reciprocal relationships. Gratitude is another tool for cultivating balance. When you practice gratitude, you shift your focus from scarcity to abundance. Gratitude reminds you of the gifts in both giving and receiving. For example, you might feel grateful for the opportunity to help someone, knowing it strengthens your connection to them. At the same time, you might feel grateful for the moments of rest that allow you to recharge and show up more fully. Gratitude helps you see self-love and altruism not as trade-offs, but as mutually enriching practices. Flexibility is key to sustaining this balance. Life is dynamic, and what feels balanced today may not feel balanced tomorrow. The middle way invites you to adapt to these shifts with openness and curiosity. Some situations may require more self-care, while others may call for greater acts of service. By remaining flexible, you can respond to life's demands without losing your sense of balance. Compassion is the thread that weaves all of these practices together. Compassion for yourself ensures that you meet your own needs with kindness, while compassion for others motivates you to contribute to their well-being. These forms of compassion are not separate. They're deeply intertwined. When you treat yourself with care, you're better able to extend that care to others. And when you support others, you often discover a deeper sense of connection and purpose within yourself. The middle way also encourages reflection. Taking time to reflect on your actions and intentions helps you stay aligned with balance. For instance, you might ask yourself whether your recent choices have been nourishing or depleting, whether you've been too focused on yourself or overly concerned with others. Reflection allows you to course correct, ensuring that you continue to walk the middle way with mindfulness and grace. Ultimately, the middle way is not about perfection. It's a practice, a continual effort to create harmony in your life. It's about recognizing that self-love and altruism are not opposites, but partners in a balanced, meaningful existence. By embracing this path, you cultivate a life where giving and receiving flow effortlessly, where care for yourself enriches your care for others, and where every action reflects the interconnected nature of all things. When we recognize the delicate balance of self-love and altruism, it naturally leads to a deeper truth. Your well-being does not exist in isolation. Every thought, action, and choice you make ripples outward, touching the lives of others in ways that are often unseen. Buddhism teaches us the profound concept of interconnectedness, a reminder that caring for yourself is not just a personal act, it's a contribution to the world around you. This is not a metaphor, but a reality, where your inner harmony directly influences the people, environments, and communities you interact with. Interconnectedness lies at the heart of Buddhist philosophy. It's the understanding that all beings are interdependent, much like the threads of a vast, intricate web. When one thread is strengthened or strained, the entire web responds. In the same way, the state of your well-being has a direct impact on those connected to you. If you nurture yourself with kindness, mindfulness, and compassion, you bring those qualities into your relationships, workplaces, and interactions. If you neglect yourself, the effects can ripple outward as impatience, frustration, or detachment, creating discord not only within, but also around you. Caring for yourself is an act of responsibility because it equips you to show up fully for others. Think about how much easier it is to support someone else when you're feeling rested, calm, and centered. This isn't about prioritizing yourself above others. It's about recognizing that your energy, emotions, and actions influence the people you encounter every day. The way you treat yourself sets the tone for how you engage with the world. This concept also helps dismantle the false narrative that self-care is selfish. When you prioritize your well-being, you become a source of stability and positivity for others. For example, a teacher who practices mindfulness can create a classroom environment where students feel calm and focused. A parent who sets boundaries and takes time for rest is better able to offer their children patience and attention. These acts of self-care are not just for the individual, they contribute to the well-being of those around them. Interconnectedness also reveals that the energy you bring into a space matters. When you approach life with kindness and gratitude, you create an atmosphere that encourages those qualities in others. Conversely, when you carry stress or resentment, those emotions can spread like wildfire, affecting everyone in their path. This isn't to say you should suppress your emotions, but rather that caring for yourself helps you process and manage them in a way that minimizes harm and maximizes connection. One of the most transformative aspects of interconnectedness is the realization that small acts of self-care can lead to significant impacts on others. A simple decision to pause and take a deep breath before reacting can prevent a conflict from escalating. Choosing to listen to your body's needs can inspire others to do the same, creating a ripple effect of mindfulness and respect. These seemingly small choices demonstrate how caring for yourself is an investment in the collective well-being of those around you. Buddhism also teaches that your well-being is tied to the collective harmony of the world. This idea is beautifully expressed through the practice of loving kindness meditation. When you cultivate love and compassion for yourself, it becomes easier to extend those feelings outward to family, friends, acquaintances, and even strangers. This practice reinforces the understanding that the love you offer yourself is not separate from the love you offer others. It's a continuous flow that begins within and radiates outward. Your well-being also impacts the way you contribute to your community. When you're balanced and whole, you're more likely to engage in meaningful actions that uplift those around you. This could be as simple as offering a smile, or as significant as volunteering your time for a cause you care about. These contributions are most effective when they come from a place of abundance rather than exhaustion. By caring for yourself first, you ensure that your energy is sustainable and that your actions are genuinely impactful. The concept of interconnectedness extends beyond people to include the environment. Your choices, no matter how small, affect the planet we share. For instance, practicing mindfulness in your consumption, whether of food, resources, or material goods, can reduce waste and encourage sustainability. When you prioritize self-care in a way that aligns with respect for the earth, you model behaviors that inspire others to do the same, creating a ripple effect that benefits future generations. Buddhism emphasizes the importance of intention in all actions, and this is especially true when it comes to caring for yourself. When your self-care practices are rooted in compassion rather than ego, they naturally benefit others. For example, taking time to meditate or reflect isn't just about your personal peace. It also allows you to bring clarity and calmness into your interactions. Similarly, nourishing your body with healthy food or exercise isn't merely an individual act. It equips you to show up for others with strength and vitality. This principle also applies to emotional well-being. When you take the time to address your own pain or trauma, you prevent those wounds from spilling over into your relationships. Healing yourself is not an isolated act. It's a way of breaking cycles of harm and creating space for healthier connections. This is why Buddhism encourages self-compassion as a starting point for compassion toward others. When you acknowledge and care for your own suffering, you develop the capacity to understand and alleviate the suffering of those around you. Interconnectedness reminds us that no one exists in a vacuum. Every word you speak, every action you take, and even every thought you entertain has the potential to influence others. This understanding invites you to approach self-care not as an isolated practice, but as an integral part of your role in the larger web of life. When you care for yourself with mindfulness and intention, you contribute to a ripple effect of positivity, kindness, and harmony. This perspective also fosters a sense of responsibility. Recognizing how your well-being impacts others encourages you to make choices that align with the greater good. For instance, prioritizing rest allows you to show up with energy and focus, while neglecting it can lead to mistakes or conflicts that affect those around you. Similarly, cultivating a practice of gratitude and mindfulness not only enhances your own life, but also creates a positive environment for those you interact with. One of the most profound lessons of interconnectedness is that your inner peace contributes to global peace. While this may seem abstract, it's grounded in the reality that large-scale change begins with individual actions. A single person practicing mindfulness, compassion, and kindness can inspire others to do the same, creating a ripple effect that reaches far beyond their immediate circle. This is how caring for yourself becomes an act of service to the world. Ultimately, understanding interconnectedness transforms the way you view self-care. It shifts the narrative from me first to me too, recognizing that your well-being is inseparable from the well-being of others. By nurturing yourself, you're not only honoring your own needs, but also contributing to a more compassionate, connected, and harmonious world. This realization is both empowering and humbling, reminding us that every act of self-care is an opportunity to make the world a little brighter. As the concept of interconnectedness reveals the profound impact your well-being has on the world, it naturally leads to an even deeper truth within Buddhist philosophy, the illusion of separateness. The belief that we exist as isolated individuals, disconnected from others, fuels a sense of division and often frames self-love as selfish. Yet Buddhism teaches that this separateness is not real. When you begin to see yourself as part of the greater whole, the stigma of loving yourself dissolves, transforming self-care into an act of universal love. This realization is not only liberating, but also essential for living with compassion, harmony, and authenticity. The idea of oneness challenges the deeply ingrained belief that loving yourself somehow detracts from the love you can offer others. In reality, these two are inseparable. When you acknowledge that your existence is woven into the fabric of all life, you see that taking care of yourself is a way of contributing to the well-being of everyone. Self-love becomes a natural expression of this interconnectedness, not an act of selfishness, but one of harmony and alignment with the greater whole. This understanding begins with compassion. Buddhism teaches that compassion arises when we recognize that all beings share the same fundamental experiences: joy, pain, hope, and suffering. These shared experiences create a bond that transcends individual differences. When you extend compassion toward yourself, you're acknowledging this shared humanity, reinforcing the understanding that your well-being is not separate from the well-being of others. Self-love, in this context, is not about prioritizing yourself over others, but about honoring your place within the collective. One of the reasons self-love is often stigmatized is because it's misunderstood as self-centeredness. But the practice of recognizing oneness dismantles this misconception. Oneness reveals that loving yourself is not about building walls or separating yourself from others. It's about dissolving those walls, seeing that your happiness, health, and peace contribute directly to the happiness, health, and peace of those around you. In this way, self-love is not an act of exclusion, but of inclusion, an acknowledgement that you are part of the whole. The illusion of separateness also fosters judgment, both toward yourself and others. When you view yourself as isolated, it's easy to fall into patterns of comparison, criticism, or feelings of inadequacy. Buddhism offers an antidote to this through the practice of seeing the self and others as interconnected. When you view yourself with kindness and compassion, you naturally begin to view others in the same way. This shift breaks down the barriers created by judgment, replacing them with understanding and connection. Oneness also transforms the way you perceive boundaries. Healthy boundaries, often seen as acts of self-protection, take on a new meaning when viewed through the lens of interconnectedness. Setting boundaries is not about keeping others out, but about creating space where relationships can thrive. By taking care of your own needs, you ensure that your interactions with others are rooted in mutual respect and understanding. This balance reinforces the idea that self-love and love for others are not opposing forces, but complementary practices. The concept of oneness extends beyond relationships to encompass all aspects of life. When you see yourself as part of the greater whole, every action you take gains significance. The way you care for your body, mind and spirit becomes a reflection of your respect for life itself. Simple acts like eating nourishing food, resting when you're tired, or engaging in activities that bring you joy are no longer viewed as indulgent, but as essential practices that honor your connection to the world. Recognizing oneness also challenges the notion that self-sacrifice is the ultimate expression of love. While acts of selflessness can be beautiful, they can also become harmful when they come at the expense of your own well-being. Buddhism teaches that true compassion is sustainable only when it includes yourself. This perspective shifts the focus from sacrifice to balance, encouraging you to give from a place of abundance rather than depletion. By loving yourself, you ensure that your acts of kindness and generosity are genuine and lasting. Another transformative aspect of oneness is how it reframes your understanding of success and failure. In a culture that often measures worth through external achievements, it's easy to tie your self-love to accomplishments. But when you see yourself as part of the greater whole, your value is no longer determined by individual successes or failures. Instead, it's rooted in your inherent connection to life. This understanding allows you to approach challenges with grace and resilience, knowing that your worth is constant and unshaken. The illusion of separateness also fuels fear of rejection, failure, or not being enough. When you let go of this illusion, these fears lose their grip. Oneness reminds you that you are never truly alone, that your struggles and triumphs are shared experiences that connect you to others. This sense of connection fosters courage and self-acceptance, allowing you to embrace yourself fully and without judgment. Mindfulness plays a crucial role in overcoming the illusion of separateness. Through mindfulness, you become aware of the ways your thoughts and actions impact others and the world around you. This awareness deepens your understanding of interconnectedness, making it clear that loving yourself is not an isolated act, but part of a larger ripple effect. When you approach life with mindfulness, every choice you make, whether to rest, give, or grow, is imbued with intention and care. Oneness also encourages gratitude. When you see yourself as part of the greater whole, you naturally develop a sense of appreciation for the people, experiences, and opportunities that shape your life. Gratitude reinforces the practice of self-love by reminding you of the gifts you bring to the world and the gifts the world offers in return. It's a cycle that nourishes both you and those around you, creating a sense of abundance and fulfillment. Recognizing oneness transforms the way you view love itself. Love is no longer something to be earned, given, or withheld. It becomes a state of being. When you love yourself, you're not drawing from a limited well of affection, but tapping into an infinite source of compassion and connection. This love is expansive, touching every aspect of your life and radiating outward to those around you. In this light, self-love is revealed as an essential practice, not just for personal well-being, but for the harmony of the entire world. By caring for yourself, you honor the interconnected nature of life, dissolving the barriers of selfishness and embracing a love that is universal, inclusive, and transformative. This practice is not only liberating, but deeply enriching, showing us that in loving ourselves, we are truly loving all. As the understanding of oneness reshapes how we view self-love as universal love, it leads to a practice that is both practical and transformative: mindfulness. Mindfulness offers a path to cultivate self-acceptance by teaching us to observe ourselves with clarity and kindness, free from the grip of judgment or comparison. This practice is not about changing who you are, but about embracing yourself fully, as you are, in each moment. Through mindfulness, you learn to meet your thoughts, emotions, and actions with compassion, creating a foundation for genuine self-love and deeper peace. Mindfulness begins with presence. It's about being fully aware of yourself in the here and now, without distractions from the past or future. This awareness allows you to see yourself clearly, without the filters of expectation or self-criticism that often distort your view. Instead of running from uncomfortable emotions or harsh inner narratives, mindfulness encourages you to sit with them, to gently explore their origins and meanings. This practice shifts your relationship with yourself, replacing resistance with curiosity and acceptance. Observing yourself mindfully helps you recognize the patterns of thought and behavior that may hold you back. Often these patterns stem from deeply ingrained beliefs about worthiness or success. For example, you might notice a tendency to criticize yourself for not meeting a certain standard, whether in work, relationships, or personal growth. Mindfulness allows you to identify these critical voices not as truths, but as learned responses. By observing them without judgment, you begin to loosen their grip and create space for self-compassion to grow. One of the most profound aspects of mindfulness is its ability to separate who you are from what you think. Thoughts are often fleeting, shaped by external influences, past experiences, or current emotions. When you identify too closely with your thoughts, you may believe that negative self-perceptions are a reflection of your true self. Mindfulness helps you see these thoughts for what they are: temporary and often inaccurate stories. This perspective is liberating, allowing you to connect with your deeper self beyond the chatter of the mind. Mindfulness also teaches you to embrace impermanence, a cornerstone of Buddhist philosophy. By recognizing that emotions, thoughts, and experiences are constantly changing, you become less attached to the highs and less fearful of the lows. This acceptance fosters a sense of peace and resilience, allowing you to face challenges with greater equanimity. Self-acceptance blossoms when you realize that your worth is not tied to fleeting emotions or circumstances, but is rooted in your inherent being. The practice of mindfulness encourages non-judgmental observation, which is essential for self-acceptance. Too often, people judge themselves harshly for their perceived flaws, mistakes, or shortcomings. This judgment creates a cycle of shame and self-doubt that is difficult to break. Mindfulness interrupts this cycle by inviting you to observe your experiences without labeling them as good or bad. This doesn't mean ignoring mistakes, but approaching them with a sense of understanding and growth rather than condemnation. Breathing is a cornerstone of mindfulness, serving as an anchor that keeps you present. Paying attention to your breath grounds you in the moment, providing a sense of stability when emotions feel overwhelming. This simple yet powerful practice helps you reconnect with your body and mind, fostering a sense of calm and clarity. By focusing on your breath, you cultivate the space needed to respond to yourself with patience and compassion, even in moments of difficulty. Mindfulness also invites you to practice gratitude, which is a powerful tool for self-acceptance. By acknowledging the aspects of yourself that you appreciate, whether it's your resilience, kindness, or creativity, you begin to shift your focus from what you lack to what you have. Gratitude doesn't ignore areas for growth, but frames them within a broader perspective of self-worth. This balanced view allows you to accept yourself while continuing to grow. Self-acceptance through mindfulness extends to the body as well. Many people struggle with dissatisfaction about their physical appearance or health, driven by societal pressures or internalized ideals. Mindfulness encourages you to approach your body with gratitude and respect, appreciating it for what it allows you to do rather than how it looks. This shift in perspective transforms your relationship with your body from one of judgment to one of care, reinforcing the practice of self-love. Another transformative aspect of mindfulness is its ability to foster self-compassion during moments of failure or struggle. When things don't go as planned, it's easy to fall into self-blame or despair. Mindfulness teaches you to approach these moments with kindness, recognizing that failure is a natural part of growth. By observing your experiences without harsh judgment, you create a space where learning and healing can occur. This practice helps you see challenges not as personal flaws, but as opportunities for resilience and transformation. Mindfulness also helps you let go of the need for perfection, which is a common barrier to self-acceptance. Perfectionism often stems from a fear of inadequacy or rejection, driving people to strive for unattainable standards. This mindset creates constant tension and dissatisfaction, as nothing ever feels good enough. Through mindfulness, you learn to embrace your imperfections as part of your humanity. This acceptance doesn't mean settling for less, but appreciating yourself as you are while working toward your goals with patience and self-compassion. The practice of mindfulness deepens your understanding of your inner world, creating a sense of alignment between your thoughts, feelings, and actions. This alignment fosters authenticity, allowing you to live in a way that reflects your true self rather than societal expectations or external pressures. When you accept yourself fully, you no longer feel the need to wear masks or hide parts of yourself. This authenticity enriches your relationships and enhances your sense of fulfillment. Mindfulness also strengthens your ability to set healthy boundaries, which are essential for self-acceptance. Boundaries are not about keeping others out, but about protecting your energy and well-being. By staying present and attuned to your needs, you can identify when to say yes and when to say no, without guilt or fear. This practice reinforces the idea that your well-being is worthy of respect and care. Another powerful aspect of mindfulness is its ability to transform negative self-talk. The inner critic often thrives on unchecked thoughts, repeating patterns of blame, doubt, or fear. Mindfulness interrupts this cycle by bringing awareness to these thoughts and allowing you to question their validity. Over time, this practice helps you replace negative self-talk with kinder, more supportive inner dialogue, creating a foundation for lasting self-acceptance. Mindfulness also cultivates patience, both with yourself and others. Self-acceptance is not an overnight transformation, but a journey that requires time and effort. By staying present and patient, you give yourself the space to grow and evolve without rushing or forcing progress. This patience reinforces the idea that self-love is not about achieving perfection, but about embracing the process of becoming. The ripple effects of mindfulness extend beyond the self, enhancing your interactions with others. When you accept yourself, you're more likely to approach others with empathy and understanding. This creates dapus kan kiki and fosters a sense of belonging, reinforcing the interconnected nature of life. By cultivating self-acceptance, you contribute to a more compassionate and harmonious world. At its core, mindfulness is a practice of returning to yourself. It's about remembering that you are enough, just as you are, even as you strive to grow. This practice doesn't erase challenges or difficulties, but equips you to face them with clarity and resilience. Through mindfulness, you discover that self-acceptance is not about changing who you are, but about fully embracing the truth of your being, moment by moment. In doing so, you create a life rooted in peace, compassion, and authenticity, a life that reflects the profound beauty of being fully present. As mindfulness teaches us the power of self-acceptance, it naturally highlights the importance of caring for ourselves as a sacred act. Yet, so often, we overlook this essential truth, allowing self-neglect to seep into our lives. Neglecting yourself isn't just a physical or emotional issue, it's a spiritual one. It creates invisible walls that block your path to enlightenment, keeping you tethered to cycles of dissatisfaction and disconnection. Spiritual growth requires clarity, presence, and inner harmony, and ignoring your needs disrupts all of these, pulling you further away from the essence of who you are. Neglecting yourself often stems from a belief that your worth is tied to how much you do for others or how much you achieve. This mindset can lead to chronic overextension, where your energy is drained and your spirit is left depleted. When you fail to care for yourself, you sacrifice the very foundation that supports your ability to grow spiritually. Your body, mind, and spirit are interconnected, and ignoring one inevitably impacts the others. Spiritual growth demands a stable base, and self-neglect erodes that stability. Ignoring self-care often manifests as a lack of attention to your emotional and mental needs. Suppressing emotions, avoiding rest, or ignoring signs of burnout doesn't make these issues go away. It merely buries them deeper. Over time, these unresolved emotions and unmet needs accumulate, creating inner turbulence that clouds your ability to find peace. Buddhism teaches that enlightenment requires inner clarity, and neglecting yourself disrupts this clarity, leaving you overwhelmed by mental noise. When you neglect yourself, you also lose touch with your inner voice. That quiet, guiding intuition becomes harder to hear amidst the chaos of unmet needs and unresolved feelings. This disconnect makes it difficult to align with your spiritual path because you're no longer attuned to your own wisdom. Caring for yourself isn't indulgent. It's a way of clearing the space needed to reconnect with your deeper self. By honoring your needs, you create room for spiritual insight and growth. Neglect can also create a cycle of negative habits that further distance you from spiritual fulfillment. When you're running on empty, it's easy to fall into patterns of avoidance, distraction, or self-criticism. These habits act as barriers, reinforcing feelings of inadequacy or unworthiness. Spiritual growth requires breaking free from these cycles, and that begins with addressing the root cause, the neglect of your own well-being. Recognizing this truth is the first step toward dismantling these barriers and creating a more nurturing relationship with yourself. Buddhism emphasizes the importance of balance, and neglecting yourself disrupts this balance. It often leads to extremes, either overworking to the point of exhaustion or retreating entirely from the world. Neither of these states supports spiritual growth, which thrives in harmony. When you care for yourself, you create a balanced foundation from which to explore your spiritual journey. This balance doesn't mean avoiding challenges, but meeting them with the resilience that comes from being well-nourished in body, mind, and spirit. One of the most overlooked aspects of self-neglect is how it impacts your ability to connect with others. Spiritual growth is not a solitary pursuit. It's deeply intertwined with your relationships and interactions. When you're depleted, it's difficult to show up for others with authenticity and compassion. Neglecting yourself creates distance in your relationships, as the energy you bring to these connections becomes strained or diminished. By caring for yourself, you replenish the energy needed to foster meaningful relationships that support your spiritual journey. Neglecting yourself can also manifest as an avoidance of self-reflection. When you're too busy or too drained to check in with yourself, you lose the opportunity to address the deeper questions that guide spiritual growth. Reflection is essential for understanding your patterns, intentions, and desires, but it requires time and energy, resources that self-neglect often leaves in short supply. Prioritizing self-care creates the mental and emotional space needed for this introspection, allowing you to navigate your spiritual path with greater awareness. Another way self-neglect harms spiritual growth is by fostering a sense of disconnection from the present moment. When you're overwhelmed or running on autopilot, it's difficult to stay present. Spiritual growth, however, is rooted in presence. Buddhism teaches that enlightenment is found in the here and now, and neglecting yourself pulls you away from this truth. Caring for yourself anchors you in the present, helping you engage with life fully and authentically. Self-neglect often leads to a resistance to vulnerability, which is a key component of spiritual growth. When you ignore your needs, you may build walls to protect yourself from discomfort or pain. These walls, however, also block the flow of love, connection, and insight. Spiritual growth requires the courage to be vulnerable, to face your emotions and experiences with openness. By caring for yourself, you create a safe space to explore this vulnerability, fostering a deeper connection with yourself and the world around you. Neglecting yourself can also create feelings of guilt or shame, which are significant barriers to spiritual growth. These emotions often arise from a belief that self-care is selfish or undeserved. Buddhism invites us to challenge this narrative by recognizing that self-care is an act of compassion, not selfishness. When you care for yourself, you honor the interconnected nature of life, understanding that your well-being contributes to the greater harmony of the world. Letting go of guilt and shame allows you to approach self-care as a spiritual practice, one that supports your growth and the well-being of those around you. The act of neglecting yourself can also lead to physical and mental exhaustion, which hinders your ability to engage in spiritual practices. Meditation, mindfulness, and reflection require a certain level of energy and focus, both of which are compromised when you're depleted. By prioritizing self-care, you ensure that you have the vitality needed to sustain these practices. This care becomes the foundation upon which deeper spiritual exploration can occur. Buddhism teaches that enlightenment is not something to be achieved, but something to be realized within. Neglecting yourself creates barriers to this realization by fostering a sense of disconnection from your own essence. When you care for yourself, you create the conditions for self-discovery, allowing you to reconnect with the truth that has always been within you. This process is not about adding anything to yourself, but removing the obstacles that prevent you from seeing your inherent wholeness. Neglecting yourself also prevents you from recognizing the beauty and sacredness of your own being. Spiritual growth is rooted in the understanding that you are not separate from the divine, from the universe, or from the flow of life. When you ignore your needs, you diminish your ability to see and honor this connection. Self-care, then, becomes a way of affirming your place in the larger whole, a practice of aligning with the sacredness of existence. Caring for yourself also fosters resilience, which is essential for navigating the challenges of spiritual growth. The journey toward enlightenment is not without obstacles, and neglecting yourself leaves you ill-equipped to face them. When you care for yourself, You build the strength needed to persevere, to meet difficulties with grace and courage. This resilience allows you to move through challenges without losing sight of your path, deepening your connection to the spiritual truths you seek. Self-neglect can also perpetuate feelings of isolation, which hinder spiritual growth. When you ignore your needs, you may feel disconnected not only from yourself, but also from others and the world around you. Spiritual growth, however, is about connection. Connection to your own essence, to others, and to the greater whole. Caring for yourself bridges this gap, creating a sense of unity that supports your journey toward enlightenment. Ultimately, neglecting yourself creates barriers to spiritual growth by disconnecting you from the very essence of who you are. It clouds your ability to see clearly, to connect deeply, and to grow authentically. Self-care is not a luxury or a distraction. It is a vital practice that nourishes your body, mind, and spirit, allowing you to walk your spiritual path with clarity, compassion, and purpose. By choosing to care for yourself, you remove the barriers that stand between you and the truth of your being, opening the door to a life of greater peace, love, and enlightenment. As we reflect on the ways self-care shapes our spiritual journey, another essential element comes into focus: self-respect. Buddha's teachings remind us that self-respect and self-worth are not indulgent ideas, but foundational principles for a life rooted in dignity and compassion. Respecting yourself is not just about how you view yourself. It's about how you engage with the world, how you make choices, and how you honor the sacredness of your existence. In Buddhism, self-respect aligns with the deeper understanding of living in harmony with your values, cultivating inner strength, and embracing the worth that is inherent in all beings. Self-respect begins with recognizing your intrinsic value. Buddhism teaches that every being has the capacity for enlightenment, a truth that underscores the sacredness of life itself. When you understand this, it becomes clear that respecting yourself is not a privilege, but a responsibility. It's a way of honoring the potential within you, treating yourself with the same reverence you would extend to any other sacred aspect of existence. This perspective reframes self-respect as an act of alignment with the natural order of life, where every being holds worth and deserves care. Respecting yourself also involves living in accordance with your values. Buddha emphasized the importance of right action, right speech, and right livelihood, principles that guide us toward integrity and authenticity. Self-respect means holding yourself accountable to these principles, not out of fear or obligation, but as a way of affirming your dignity. When your actions align with your values, you cultivate a sense of inner peace and confidence, reinforcing your sense of self-worth. This alignment also helps you navigate relationships with clarity and balance. When you respect yourself, you naturally set boundaries that protect your well-being and honor your needs. These boundaries are not about shutting others out, but about creating space where mutual respect and understanding can flourish. Buddha's teachings encourage compassion for all beings, and this includes yourself. Setting boundaries is an expression of this compassion, a way of ensuring that your relationships are rooted in respect rather than exploitation or imbalance. Self-respect also involves acknowledging and embracing your strengths and weaknesses. Buddhism teaches us to see ourselves clearly, without judgment or denial. This means recognizing your abilities and achievements without arrogance, as well as accepting your flaws and mistakes without self-condemnation. This balanced view fosters humility and confidence, allowing you to approach life with an open heart and a grounded sense of self. By respecting yourself in this way, you create a foundation for personal growth and resilience. Another key aspect of self-respect is taking responsibility for your choices and actions. Buddha emphasized the concept of karma, the idea that our actions create consequences that shape our experiences. Respecting yourself means understanding and owning this responsibility, making choices that reflect your values and aspirations. This doesn't mean striving for perfection, but approaching life with mindfulness and intention. When you take responsibility for your actions, you strengthen your sense of agency and dignity, reinforcing your self-worth. Self-respect is also deeply connected to self-compassion. Buddhism teaches that suffering is a natural part of life, but how we respond to it shapes our experience. Respecting yourself means meeting your struggles with kindness and understanding, rather than harshness or denial. This compassionate approach not only alleviates suffering, but also reinforces your sense of worth, reminding you that you are deserving of care and patience, even in difficult times. The practice of self-respect extends to the way you care for your body and mind. Buddha taught that the body is a vehicle for spiritual practice, deserving of care and respect. This perspective encourages you to nourish your body with healthy food, rest, and movement, not out of vanity, but as an act of gratitude for the life it sustains. Similarly, caring for your mind through mindfulness, learning, and reflection is an expression of respect for your inner world. These practices reinforce the understanding that your well-being is valuable and worthy of attention. Respecting yourself also means standing firm in your values and beliefs, even when they are challenged. Buddha's teachings encourage us to remain steadfast in the face of adversity, guided by our inner wisdom rather than external pressures. This requires courage and self-trust, qualities that are nurtured through the practice of self-respect. When you honor your principles and stay true to yourself, you strengthen your sense of identity and integrity, creating a life that feels authentic and meaningful. In Buddhism, self-respect is also tied to the practice of non-attachment. Respecting yourself doesn't mean clinging to an idealized version of who you are or striving for external validation. Instead, it's about embracing yourself as you are, with all your imperfections and strengths. Non-attachment allows you to let go of the need for approval or comparison, freeing you to live in alignment with your true self. This liberation fosters a deeper sense of self-worth, rooted in your intrinsic value rather than external measures. The ripple effects of self-respect extend beyond the self, influencing your interactions with others and the world. When you respect yourself, you naturally treat others with the same respect, creating relationships built on mutual understanding and compassion. This approach aligns with Buddha's teachings on loving kindness, which emphasize the importance of seeing the sacredness in all beings. By respecting yourself, you contribute to a culture of respect and dignity that uplifts everyone around you. Self-respect also helps you navigate challenges with grace and resilience. Life is filled with uncertainties and difficulties, but when you respect yourself, you approach these moments with a sense of inner strength. Buddha taught that suffering is an opportunity for growth, and self-respect enables you to face challenges without losing sight of your worth. This resilience allows you to learn from adversity, transforming obstacles into stepping stones on your spiritual journey. One of the most powerful aspects of self-respect is its ability to foster inner peace. When you honor yourself, you create a sense of harmony within, free from the turmoil of self-doubt or external judgment. This peace is not passive, but active, a state of being that radiates confidence and calmness. It allows you to engage with life fully and authentically, guided by a deep sense of dignity and self-worth. Buddha's teachings remind us that self-respect is not about ego or self-importance, but about recognizing and honoring the sacredness of your being. It's a practice that requires mindfulness, compassion, and courage, but the rewards are profound. By respecting yourself, you create a life that reflects your values and aspirations, a life that feels authentic and fulfilling. This practice not only supports your spiritual growth, but also enriches your relationships and contributes to the greater harmony of the world. Respecting yourself creates a foundation of dignity and authenticity, but it also opens the door to a deeper understanding of how your actions, thoughts, and intentions shape your life and the world around you. This is where the teachings of karma become essential. Karma, often misunderstood as a simple system of reward and punishment, is far more profound in its true essence. It reflects the natural law of cause and effect, showing how your inner and outer worlds are interconnected. Loving yourself within this framework isn't just an act of personal care, it's a way of generating positive energy that radiates outward, influencing your relationships, environment, and even your spiritual growth. The role of karma in self-love begins with intention. Buddhism teaches that the quality of your actions is shaped by the intention behind them. When you approach yourself with kindness, compassion, and respect, you're setting an intention that creates positive energy. This energy doesn't stop with you. It extends to the people you interact with and the spaces you inhabit. Loving yourself becomes a way of cultivating a ripple effect of positivity, reinforcing the idea that your inner state profoundly influences the outer world. Loving yourself through the lens of karma also means recognizing the impact of your thoughts. Thoughts are not just fleeting mental activity, they hold the power to shape your reality. When your thoughts about yourself are rooted in self-compassion and acceptance, they create a foundation for positive actions and experiences. Negative self-talk, on the other hand, can generate energy that hinders growth and connection. By practicing self-love, you align your thoughts with intentions that foster well-being, not only for yourself, but also for those around you. The choices you make each day also play a critical role in how karma unfolds. When you prioritize self-care and well-being, you're not only nurturing yourself, but also laying the groundwork for positive outcomes. Acts as simple as resting when you're tired, eating nourishing food, or setting boundaries contribute to the energy you carry into the world. This energy, in turn, shapes your interactions and relationships, creating a cycle of care and respect that aligns with the principles of karma. One of the most significant ways self-love generates positive karma is through its impact on relationships. When you treat yourself with compassion and respect, you model these qualities for others. Your actions and energy create an unspoken invitation for those around you to do the same. This doesn't mean controlling how others behave, but creating an environment where kindness and understanding can thrive. The positive energy you cultivate within becomes a gift you share with the world, reinforcing the interconnected nature of life. Self-love also influences the type of energy you attract. Karma reflects the law of cause and effect, meaning that the energy you put out into the world often returns to you. When you approach yourself with care and compassion, you're more likely to draw people and experiences into your life that mirror these qualities. This isn't about seeking rewards, but about aligning yourself with the natural flow of positive energy, creating a life that feels harmonious and fulfilling. Loving yourself also impacts the way you respond to challenges. Buddhism teaches that difficulties are an inevitable part of life, but how you approach them shapes their karmic ripple. When you meet challenges with self-compassion, you create an opportunity for growth rather than resistance. This approach generates positive karma by transforming obstacles into stepping stones, reinforcing the idea that even hardship can lead to something meaningful when approached with the right mindset. The practice of self-love also fosters gratitude, which is a powerful generator of positive karma. Gratitude shifts your focus from what is lacking to what is present, creating a sense of abundance and contentment. When you're grateful for yourself, your body, your mind, your efforts, you're cultivating an energy of appreciation that naturally extends outward. This energy not only enhances your own sense of well-being, but also inspires gratitude and positivity in those around you. Mindfulness plays a critical role in aligning self-love with the principles of karma. By staying present and intentional, you're able to observe how your actions and thoughts influence your life. This awareness helps you make choices that reflect your values and aspirations, creating a cycle of positive energy. For example, choosing to pause and reflect before reacting to a stressful situation allows you to respond with kindness rather than frustration, generating karma that fosters connection and understanding. The concept of karma also highlights the importance of consistency in self-love. Loving yourself isn't a one-time act, but a daily practice that requires commitment and care. Each small choice, whether it's speaking kindly to yourself, setting aside time for rest, or pursuing something that brings you joy, adds up over time, creating a reservoir of positive energy that supports you and those around you. This consistency reinforces the idea that self-love is not just beneficial, but essential for living a life that aligns with Buddhist principles. Loving yourself within the framework of karma also means letting go of guilt and shame. These emotions often arise when we feel we've fallen short of our own or others' expectations. Buddhism teaches that holding on to guilt or shame creates negative energy that hinders growth and connection. Self-love, however, invites you to release these burdens, replacing them with self-compassion and forgiveness. This shift not only frees you from the weight of the past, but also generates positive karma by allowing you to move forward with clarity and intention. Another profound way self-love generates positive karma is by fostering a sense of inner peace. When you care for yourself, you create a stable foundation that allows you to navigate life with calmness and resilience. This inner peace becomes a source of strength, enabling you to approach the world with compassion and understanding. The energy you cultivate within radiates outward, influencing your relationships and the environments you inhabit, reinforcing the interconnected nature of karma. Buddhism also teaches that karma is not fixed. It's a dynamic process that can be shaped by your choices and actions. This means that no matter your past, you have the power to create positive karma through self-love. Each act of care, each kind thought, each compassionate choice contributes to a brighter, more harmonious future. This perspective is empowering, reminding you that self-love is not only transformative for the present, but also a way of planting seeds for positive outcomes in the future. Self-love also enhances your ability to contribute to the well-being of others. When you're nourished and fulfilled, you're more capable of offering genuine support and compassion to those around you. This creates a cycle of positive karma, where your well-being fuels your ability to uplift others, and their well-being in turn reinforces your own. This interconnected flow highlights how self-love and love for others are deeply intertwined within the framework of karma. The ripple effects of self-love extend beyond your immediate circle, influencing the larger world. By treating yourself with kindness and respect, you contribute to a culture that values these qualities. Your actions inspire others to approach themselves and others with care, creating a collective shift toward greater harmony and compassion. This is the essence of positive karma, understanding that your choices have far-reaching impacts and using this awareness to foster a life of integrity and connection. Ultimately, the role of karma in self-love reminds us that every thought, action, and intention matters. Loving yourself is not an isolated act, but part of a larger, interconnected system where your inner world shapes your outer reality. By cultivating positive energy within, you create ripples that touch the lives of others, contributing to a more compassionate and harmonious world. This practice not only aligns with Buddhist teachings, but also serves as a powerful reminder of the transformative power of self-love. Recognizing how self-love generates positive energy and shapes the world around us naturally leads to a deeper question. What happens when this love is obstructed by harsh self-criticism? The relentless inner voice that points out every flaw, doubts every decision, and dismisses every effort is one of the greatest barriers to inner peace. In Buddhism, letting go of this harsh judgment is seen as an essential step toward harmony within. Releasing self-criticism is not about ignoring your imperfections or mistakes, but about approaching them with compassion and understanding. This practice creates the space for true self-acceptance to flourish, opening the door to a profound sense of peace. Self-criticism often stems from unrealistic expectations or the pressure to meet external standards. These judgments can become so deeply ingrained that they shape how you see yourself, leading to feelings of inadequacy or unworthiness. Buddhism invites you to step back from this cycle by cultivating mindfulness, which helps you observe your thoughts without identifying with them. When you notice a critical thought arising, mindfulness allows you to see it for what it is, just a thought, not an absolute truth. This awareness weakens the power of self-criticism, making it easier to release. Harsh self-criticism also thrives on comparison. When you measure yourself against others, it's easy to feel like you're falling short. Buddhism teaches that comparison is rooted in the illusion of separateness, which blinds us to the shared humanity that connects us all. By letting go of comparisons, you shift your focus inward, recognizing that your journey is unique and cannot be measured against anyone else's. This shift fosters a sense of self-acceptance as you learn to honor your own path without judgment. The art of releasing self-criticism also involves acknowledging your imperfections with kindness. Buddhism emphasizes that to be human is to be imperfect. It is an inherent part of existence. When you accept this truth, you free yourself from the impossible burden of perfection. This doesn't mean ignoring areas for growth, but approaching them with a gentle and constructive attitude. Instead of berating yourself for mistakes, you can view them as opportunities to learn and evolve, which aligns with the Buddhist principle of continuous growth. Forgiveness is another powerful tool in letting go of self-criticism. Many people carry guilt or regret over past actions, allowing these feelings to fuel a cycle of self-judgment. Buddhism teaches that forgiveness is an act of liberation, not just for others, but for yourself. By forgiving yourself for past mistakes, you release the emotional weight that holds you back, creating space for healing and peace. This practice is not about excusing harmful actions, but about acknowledging your humanity and allowing yourself to move forward with clarity and compassion. Letting go of self-criticism also requires cultivating self-compassion. Compassion is not just an outward expression toward others, it begins within. Buddhism encourages you to treat yourself as you would a dear friend, offering kindness and support instead of harsh judgment. When faced with challenges or shortcomings, self-compassion allows you to respond with care rather than criticism. This practice nurtures a sense of inner safety, reinforcing the idea that you are deserving of love and understanding, even when you stumble. The practice of non-attachment plays a crucial role in releasing self-criticism. Many critical thoughts are rooted in attachment to specific outcomes, identities, or expectations. When you let go of these attachments, you free yourself from the need to constantly measure up to an ideal. Buddhism teaches that non-attachment doesn't mean indifference. It means engaging with life fully while releasing the need to control or perfect it. This perspective allows you to approach yourself with acceptance, embracing the ebb and flow of growth without judgment. Another way to release self-criticism is through gratitude. When you focus on what you appreciate about yourself, your efforts, qualities, and experiences, you naturally create a more balanced perspective. Gratitude shifts the narrative from "I'm not enough" to "I'm doing my best," fostering a sense of self-worth. This practice aligns with the Buddhist emphasis on appreciating the present moment, reminding you to honor who you are right now rather than fixating on perceived shortcomings. Letting go of self-criticism also involves reframing the way you see failure. In Buddhism, failure is not viewed as a reflection of your worth, but as an inevitable part of the path to growth. Every mistake offers a lesson, and every setback contains the seed of transformation. When you release the need to judge yourself harshly for failures, you open yourself to these lessons, turning obstacles into opportunities for resilience and wisdom. This mindset not only reduces self-criticism, but also strengthens your ability to navigate life with confidence and grace. Self-criticism often arises from a fear of not being good enough, but Buddhism teaches that your worth is not something to be earned or proven. It is intrinsic, rooted in your very existence. When you internalize this truth, the need for self-judgment begins to dissolve. Instead of striving to meet external measures of success or approval, you can rest in the understanding that you are already whole. This shift fosters a deep sense of inner peace as you release the constant pressure to prove your value. The practice of mindfulness also helps you identify patterns of self-criticism and interrupt them before they take root. By paying attention to your thoughts and emotions, you can recognize when a critical voice arises and respond with compassion rather than reaction. This awareness creates a pause, allowing you to choose a kinder response. Over time, this practice weakens the habit of self-criticism, replacing it with a more supportive and understanding inner dialogue. Another important aspect of releasing self-criticism is recognizing the interconnected nature of life. Buddhism teaches that every being is part of a greater whole, and your worth is inseparable from this interconnectedness. When you see yourself as part of this larger tapestry, it becomes easier to let go of judgments and embrace your place within it. This perspective reminds you that your imperfections do not diminish your value. They simply make you human. Releasing self-criticism also involves cultivating patience with yourself. Growth and transformation take time, and expecting immediate perfection only fuels frustration and self-doubt. Buddhism emphasizes the importance of patience as a virtue, encouraging you to approach your journey with gentle persistence. By allowing yourself the time and space to grow, you create a more compassionate and supportive relationship with yourself. Letting go of self-criticism ultimately leads to inner harmony. When you stop judging yourself harshly, you create a sense of balance within, free from the turmoil of self-doubt or shame. This inner peace allows you to engage with life more fully, approaching challenges with resilience and joy. Buddhism reminds us that true harmony comes not from erasing imperfections, but from embracing them with love and understanding. By releasing self-criticism, you pave the way for a life rooted in authenticity, compassion, and lasting peace. As releasing self-criticism brings clarity and inner peace, it naturally opens the door to understanding a deeper and more liberating aspect of self-love. In Buddhism, true self-love is not rooted in attachment to the ego, but in the freedom that comes from letting go. This form of self-love is not about inflating your sense of self or proving your worth to the world. It's about nurturing a quiet, steady respect for who you are, unshaken by external circumstances. When self-love is practiced through non-attachment, it transforms into a force that liberates rather than binds, freeing you from the need to constantly seek validation or cling to transient identities. Loving yourself without attachment begins with recognizing that the self you often cling to is not fixed or permanent. Buddhism teaches that the self is fluid, ever-changing, and interconnected with the world around you. When you cling to specific roles, achievements, or perceptions of yourself, you create rigidity that limits your growth. Non-attachment doesn't mean denying who you are, but understanding that you are more than any single label or experience. This awareness allows you to embrace your full humanity without being constrained by the expectations of the ego. Letting go of attachment to ego also involves releasing the need for external validation. When self-love is tied to how others see you, it becomes fragile, easily shaken by criticism or rejection. Non-attachment invites you to shift your focus inward, finding worth in your inherent existence rather than in fleeting approval. This shift is empowering because it frees you from the constant pressure to perform or meet external standards. Instead, you can rest in the quiet confidence that your value is intrinsic, unchanging, and not dependent on anyone else's opinion. Practicing self-love through non-attachment also means letting go of the fear of imperfection. When you attach your self-worth to being flawless or achieving certain goals, you set yourself up for constant disappointment. Buddhism teaches that imperfection is a natural part of life, and resisting it only creates suffering. Non-attachment allows you to embrace your flaws and mistakes as part of your journey, seeing them not as failures, but as opportunities for growth. This perspective nurtures a gentler, more compassionate form of self-love that isn't tied to perfection, but to the process of becoming. Another aspect of non-attachment in self-love is releasing the need to control how your life unfolds. Often, people tie their self-worth to specific outcomes, believing that their happiness or value depends on achieving certain milestones. This creates a constant state of striving and dissatisfaction, as no outcome can ever provide lasting fulfillment. Non-attachment teaches you to let go of these expectations, focusing instead on the present moment and the effort you put into each step. This approach brings a sense of peace and freedom, as you no longer feel bound by the need to control what is ultimately beyond your power. Non-attachment also reshapes your relationship with emotions. When you attach your sense of self to fleeting feelings, whether joy, sadness, or anger, you risk being swept away by their intensity. Buddhism encourages you to observe emotions without clinging to them, recognizing that they are temporary experiences rather than fixed aspects of your identity. Loving yourself in this way means allowing yourself to feel fully without being defined by those feelings. This practice fosters emotional resilience, helping you navigate life's ups and downs with greater stability and grace. Loving yourself without clinging to ego also involves releasing comparisons. When you measure yourself against others, you create attachment to an idealized version of success or happiness that may not reflect your true self. Buddhism teaches that comparison stems from the illusion of separateness, which blinds us to the unique beauty of our own path. By letting go of these comparisons, you free yourself to honor your journey without judgment, cultivating a self-love that is authentic and deeply rooted in your individuality. Non-attachment in self-love also extends to possessions and external achievements. While accomplishments and material success can bring temporary satisfaction, they are not the foundation of true self-worth. When you tie your identity to what you have or what you've done, you create attachment to things that are impermanent and ultimately beyond your control. Buddhism encourages you to appreciate these things without clinging to them, recognizing that they do not define who you are. This perspective allows you to enjoy life's gifts while maintaining a sense of freedom and inner peace. Practicing self-love through non-attachment also involves letting go of past regrets and future anxieties. The ego often clings to what could have been or what might be, creating a sense of restlessness that clouds the present moment. Buddhism teaches that the present is the only place where life truly exists, and loving yourself means grounding yourself in this reality. By releasing attachment to the past and future, you create space to fully embrace who you are right now, without the weight of what was or the pressure of what might be. Non-attachment also transforms how you view relationships. Loving yourself without clinging to ego means recognizing that your worth is not dependent on how others treat you or whether they validate your feelings. This doesn't mean detaching from people or isolating yourself, but approaching relationships with a sense of balance and mutual respect. When you let go of the need for others to complete or define you, you free yourself to connect with them authentically, creating bonds that are based on love rather than dependence. Another powerful aspect of self-love through non-attachment is letting go of the stories you tell yourself about who you should be. These narratives often come from societal expectations or internalized beliefs, creating pressure to conform to ideals that may not align with your true self. Buddhism invites you to release these stories and instead focus on what feels authentic to you. This practice allows you to love yourself for who you are, not who you think you need to be, fostering a sense of freedom and authenticity. Non-attachment also involves embracing change as a natural part of life. The ego often resists change, clinging to the familiar even when it no longer serves you. This resistance creates suffering as life is constantly in motion. Loving yourself through non-attachment means welcoming change as an opportunity for growth, understanding that you are not defined by the circumstances of the moment. This perspective helps you navigate transitions with grace, knowing that your worth remains constant even as everything around you shifts. Letting go of attachment to ego also fosters humility, which is an essential aspect of self-love. Humility doesn't mean diminishing yourself or denying your strengths. It means seeing yourself as part of the greater whole, equal to but not above or below others. This understanding allows you to love yourself without arrogance, embracing your place in the interconnected web of life. Humility creates space for gratitude, kindness, and a deeper sense of connection, enriching your experience of self-love. Practicing self-love through non-attachment brings a sense of liberation that is difficult to achieve through any other means. When you release the need to cling to ego, validation, or control, you free yourself from the burdens that often weigh you down. This freedom allows you to approach life with an open heart, embracing its beauty and challenges without fear. Buddhism teaches that this state of freedom is the essence of true self-love. A love that is expansive, unconditional, and rooted in the understanding that you are already enough. This practice not only transforms your relationship with yourself, but also ripples outward, creating harmony and balance in every aspect of your life. Letting go of attachment to ego creates a liberating freedom, but as we move toward this sense of release, we encounter powerful emotions that often hold us back: guilt and shame. These feelings can linger in the shadows, shaping how we see ourselves and hindering our ability to grow. In Buddhism, guilt and shame are not seen as punishments, but as signals guiding us toward deeper understanding. When approached with awareness and compassion, these emotions can transform into sources of healing, allowing us to reconnect with ourselves in ways that foster self-compassion and inner peace. Guilt often stems from the realization that our actions have fallen short of our values or caused harm. While this acknowledgement is a necessary part of growth, staying trapped in guilt can create a cycle of self-punishment that serves no purpose. Buddhist teachings emphasize that guilt should be a stepping stone rather than a stumbling block. It points us toward accountability, not self-condemnation. By reflecting on our actions with mindfulness, we can understand the root causes of our behavior and make amends where possible. This process releases us from the burden of guilt, allowing us to move forward with clarity and intention. Shame, on the other hand, is more personal and can be even more insidious. It isn't just about what you've done, but about who you perceive yourself to be. Shame tells a story of unworthiness, creating a wall between you and the self-compassion you need to thrive. Buddhism counters this narrative by teaching that your worth is not tied to your mistakes or flaws. All beings are inherently valuable, capable of awakening and transformation. Embracing this truth allows you to view shame not as a fixed state, but as an emotion that can be understood, processed, and ultimately released. The first step in transforming guilt and shame into self-compassion is awareness. Buddhism teaches that mindfulness is the key to understanding your emotions without being consumed by them. When feelings of guilt or shame arise, it's easy to push them away or let them take over entirely. Mindfulness invites you to observe these emotions without judgment, creating space between the feeling and your response. This practice helps you see guilt and shame as temporary states rather than permanent truths, giving you the power to respond with wisdom and kindness. Self-compassion begins with acknowledging your shared humanity. Guilt and shame often make you feel isolated, as though you're the only one who has ever made mistakes or struggled with self-doubt. Buddhist teachings remind us that all beings face challenges, make errors, and feel the weight of imperfection. Recognizing this universal experience helps dissolve the isolation of guilt and shame, replacing it with a sense of connection. This connection softens the edges of these emotions, making it easier to approach yourself with the same kindness you would offer a friend in similar circumstances. Another powerful tool in transforming guilt and shame is forgiveness. Forgiveness is not about excusing harmful actions or dismissing their impact. It's about releasing the grip these emotions have on you. Buddhist teachings emphasize that holding on to guilt or shame only perpetuates suffering, while forgiveness opens the door to healing. Forgiving yourself means acknowledging your mistakes, taking responsibility where needed, and then letting go. It's an act of compassion that recognizes your capacity for growth and change, freeing you to move forward with a lighter heart. Compassion practices, such as loving-kindness meditation, play a significant role in dissolving guilt and shame. These practices invite you to direct feelings of care and warmth toward yourself, countering the harsh inner dialogue that often accompanies these emotions. Loving-kindness meditation encourages phrases like, "May I be free from suffering. May I find peace. May I treat myself with compassion." Repeating these affirmations creates a shift in how you relate to yourself, replacing criticism with care and self-judgment with understanding. The concept of impermanence is also central to transforming guilt and shame. These emotions often feel overwhelming because they seem permanent, as though they define who you are. Buddhism teaches that all things, including emotions, are transient. Guilt and shame, like waves in the ocean, rise and fall, appearing intense in one moment, but fading in the next. By holding on to the truth of impermanence, you can let these feelings pass through without becoming trapped in them, creating space for self-compassion to emerge. Another important element is understanding the difference between guilt, which focuses on actions, and shame, which focuses on identity. When you recognize that guilt arises from behavior, you can address it through action, by making amends or learning from your choices. Shame, however, requires a deeper shift in how you view yourself. Buddhism encourages you to see yourself as a dynamic being, not defined by any single moment or mistake. This perspective helps you separate your worth from your actions, fostering a kinder relationship with yourself. Transforming guilt and shame also involves shifting from self-criticism to self-inquiry. Instead of berating yourself for mistakes, ask questions that lead to understanding. What led me to act this way? What can I learn from this experience? How can I make different choices in the future? This approach aligns with Buddhist teachings on mindfulness and self-awareness, helping you view challenges as opportunities for growth rather than as evidence of failure. By replacing judgment with curiosity, you create a pathway to self-compassion. Buddhism also emphasizes the role of intention in transforming guilt and shame. Often, these emotions arise when your actions don't align with your intentions. Reflecting on your intentions helps you see that mistakes are not always rooted in malice or carelessness, but in misunderstanding or incomplete knowledge. This understanding allows you to approach yourself with greater compassion, recognizing that your intentions were likely good, even if the outcomes were not. Aligning future actions with clear intentions creates a sense of integrity that reduces guilt and shame over time. Another way to cultivate self-compassion is by creating rituals of release. Buddhist practices often involve symbolic acts, such as offering a prayer, lighting a candle, or writing down your feelings and letting them go. These rituals provide a tangible way to acknowledge guilt or shame and then release it, creating a sense of closure and peace. Engaging in these practices regularly helps reinforce the idea that you are not bound by your past, but are free to grow and evolve. Acceptance is a cornerstone of transforming guilt and shame. Buddhism teaches that resisting these emotions only intensifies them, while acceptance creates space for healing. Acceptance doesn't mean condoning harmful actions or ignoring their impact. It means acknowledging what is without resistance or denial. When you accept your emotions, you can work with them rather than against them, transforming their energy into something constructive and healing. Gratitude can also play a surprising role in this transformation. Gratitude shifts your focus from what went wrong to what is present and good in your life. When you practice gratitude, even in the face of guilt or shame, you remind yourself of the positive aspects of your journey. This practice creates balance, showing you that your life is not defined by mistakes, but by a broader tapestry of experiences, growth, and learning. Ultimately, transforming guilt and shame into self-compassion is about rewriting the narrative you tell yourself. Instead of seeing these emotions as proof of failure or unworthiness, you can view them as teachers guiding you toward greater understanding and kindness. Buddhist teachings remind us that no one is beyond redemption or growth. By embracing this truth, you open your heart to the possibility of change, creating a foundation of self-compassion that supports both healing and transformation. This process is not linear or immediate, but requires patience, practice, and persistence. Each step you take towards self-compassion is a step away from the grip of guilt and shame, bringing you closer to a life of peace and harmony. Through mindfulness, forgiveness, and an unwavering commitment to kindness, you can dissolve the barriers these emotions create, reclaiming your innate worth and capacity for love. Releasing guilt and shame through self-compassion opens the heart to a powerful realization. Much of the suffering we endure is created within. In Buddhism, the concept of dukkha speaks to the universal experience of dissatisfaction, pain, and unease. While suffering is an inevitable part of life, it is also amplified by how we treat ourselves. Loving yourself isn't just about cultivating a positive inner world. It is a profound act of minimizing unnecessary suffering. It dissolves the patterns of self-rejection, overthinking, and harsh judgment that fuel emotional pain, replacing them with a sense of inner ease and balance. At the core of dukkha is the tension between what is and what we wish it to be. This gap often creates discomfort, especially when it comes to how we view ourselves. When self-love is absent, this gap widens as we struggle to accept who we are and where we stand. Loving yourself closes this gap by encouraging acceptance and kindness. Instead of battling against your imperfections, self-love invites you to embrace them as part of the human experience. This shift reduces the inner conflict that often contributes to suffering, allowing you to find peace in the present moment. Self-love also transforms the way you respond to emotional pain. Pain is an inevitable part of life, but suffering is often amplified by how we react to it. Without self-love, it's easy to spiral into cycles of self-blame, resentment, or denial, all of which magnify the discomfort. Buddhism teaches that responding to pain with compassion, rather than resistance or judgment, reduces its hold over us. Loving yourself means offering yourself the same kindness you would extend to a friend in pain, softening the edges of suffering and creating space for healing. A lack of self-love often leads to over-identification with negative thoughts and emotions. When you believe every critical thought or get swept up in every wave of sadness or anger, it's easy to feel overwhelmed. Loving yourself, as taught in Buddhism, involves recognizing that these thoughts and emotions are not the entirety of who you are. They are passing experiences, not permanent truths. This perspective allows you to create distance from negativity, reducing the intensity of emotional pain and offering a sense of stability in the midst of life's challenges. Loving yourself also minimizes suffering by helping you break free from the cycle of self-judgment. The harsh inner critic that constantly finds fault in your actions, appearance, or achievements feeds into a sense of inadequacy that fuels emotional distress. When you practice self-love, you replace this criticism with understanding and care. This doesn't mean ignoring areas for growth, but approaching them with curiosity and kindness rather than condemnation. This approach not only reduces suffering, but also fosters personal growth in a healthier, more sustainable way. Another way self-love reduces suffering is by shifting your focus from external validation to internal alignment. The constant need for approval or acceptance from others can create a sense of dependence that leaves you vulnerable to disappointment. Loving yourself means finding worth within, independent of others' opinions or actions. This internal stability reduces the emotional pain that comes from unmet expectations or external rejection, freeing you to live authentically and with greater ease. The practice of self-love also helps you navigate uncertainty and change with greater resilience. Life is inherently unpredictable, and clinging to control or resisting change often leads to suffering. Buddhism teaches the importance of accepting impermanence, and self-love reinforces this lesson by reminding you that you are strong and capable, regardless of what changes occur around you. This inner confidence allows you to face life's uncertainties with courage, reducing the anxiety and fear that often accompany transitions. Loving yourself also dissolves the suffering caused by comparison. When you measure your worth against others, you create a sense of lack that can never truly be satisfied. Comparison breeds feelings of envy, inadequacy, and frustration, all of which contribute to emotional pain. Buddhism emphasizes the importance of contentment and gratitude, and self-love aligns with these principles by encouraging you to focus on your own journey. By appreciating who you are and what you have, you free yourself from the suffering of comparison and find joy in your unique path. Self-love also reduces suffering by fostering forgiveness, not just for others, but for yourself. Holding on to regret or resentment creates a heaviness that weighs on the heart, prolonging emotional pain. Forgiving yourself for past mistakes is an act of liberation that allows you to let go of this weight. Buddhism teaches that forgiveness is a gift you give to yourself, a way of releasing the past so you can move forward unburdened. Loving yourself means embracing this practice, transforming guilt and regret into wisdom and growth. Another way self-love minimizes suffering is by helping you set healthier boundaries. Without self-love, it's easy to overextend yourself, saying yes when you mean no, or tolerating behavior that drains your energy. This lack of boundaries often leads to resentment, exhaustion, and emotional distress. Loving yourself empowers you to protect your well-being by setting limits that honor your needs and values. These boundaries reduce the suffering caused by overcommitment or unhealthy relationships, allowing you to engage with others from a place of strength and balance. Loving yourself also enhances your ability to let go. Buddhism teaches that attachment is a major source of suffering, as it creates a clinging to things that are impermanent. Self-love supports the practice of non-attachment by encouraging you to release the need for perfection, control, or approval. This release doesn't mean indifference, but rather a peaceful acceptance of what is. By letting go of attachments, you reduce the emotional pain that comes from holding on too tightly to what cannot last. The practice of self-love also reshapes your relationship with your body. Many people carry suffering rooted in dissatisfaction with their physical appearance or abilities. Self-love invites you to view your body not as a source of shame or comparison, but as a vessel that supports your life and growth. By treating your body with care and gratitude, you shift away from self-criticism and toward appreciation. This shift reduces the suffering caused by negative body image, replacing it with a sense of respect and harmony. Another profound way self-love reduces suffering is by fostering gratitude for the present moment. Buddhism teaches that much of our suffering comes from dwelling on the past or worrying about the future. Loving yourself grounds you in the present, encouraging you to appreciate the beauty and richness of now. This practice doesn't erase challenges, but helps you find moments of peace and joy within them, reducing the overall weight of suffering. Self-love also minimizes suffering by nurturing your inner dialogue. The way you speak to yourself shapes your emotional landscape. Harsh, critical thoughts create inner tension and pain, while kind and supportive thoughts create ease and encouragement. Loving yourself involves consciously cultivating a gentler inner voice, one that uplifts rather than tears down. This practice transforms your internal world into a source of comfort and strength, reducing the suffering caused by negative self-talk. Self-love reduces suffering by reminding you of your inherent worth. Much of the pain we experience comes from feeling unworthy or unlovable. Buddhism teaches that every being possesses Buddha nature, a fundamental goodness that is unshaken by external circumstances. Loving yourself means recognizing and embracing this truth, allowing it to anchor you in a sense of unshakable value. This understanding dissolves the roots of suffering, replacing them with a deep and abiding sense of peace. Recognizing how self-love reduces suffering lays the groundwork for understanding the importance of caring for oneself as a sacred practice. Self-care, when viewed through the lens of Buddhism, transcends indulgence or fleeting acts of pampering. It becomes a form of spiritual discipline, a conscious commitment to nurture your body, mind, and soul with intention and respect. This perspective transforms self-care from something optional into an essential practice, deeply aligned with mindfulness, compassion, and the path to inner peace. Self-care begins with the understanding that your body and mind are vehicles for your spiritual journey. In Buddhism, caring for yourself is not about vanity or self-indulgence. It is about creating a strong foundation for growth and awareness. When you nourish your body with healthy food, rest, and movement, you honor its role in supporting your practice. Similarly, when you nurture your mind with mindfulness, learning, and stillness, you create the clarity and resilience needed to face life's challenges. This holistic approach ensures that every aspect of your being is prepared to engage with the world in a balanced and meaningful way. Buddhist teachings often emphasize the principle of right effort, which involves striking a balance between doing too much and too little. Self-care as a spiritual discipline aligns with this principle by encouraging you to find the middle way in how you care for yourself. Overexertion leads to burnout, while neglect breeds stagnation. True self-care means recognizing your limits and needs, ensuring that you have the energy and focus to engage fully with life. This balanced approach reinforces the idea that self-care is not selfish, but a necessary act of preservation and preparation. Mindfulness is at the heart of self-care as a spiritual practice. When you approach self-care mindfully, you transform routine actions into moments of presence and intention. Eating a meal becomes an opportunity to savor and appreciate nourishment. Resting becomes a chance to honor your body's need for recovery. Even something as simple as taking a walk can become a meditative practice, connecting you to your breath and the world around you. This mindfulness deepens the impact of self-care, turning it into a source of grounding and renewal. Compassion also plays a central role in self-care. In Buddhism, compassion begins with yourself and then extends outward to others. When you neglect your own needs, it becomes harder to show up for others with patience and understanding. By caring for yourself, you cultivate the energy and stability needed to engage compassionately with the world. This practice reminds you that self-care is not an isolated act, but part of a larger cycle of giving and receiving, where your well-being directly impacts your ability to support others. Self-care as a spiritual discipline also involves setting boundaries. In a world that often glorifies overwork and self-sacrifice, it can feel counterintuitive to prioritize your own needs. However, Buddhism teaches that balance is essential for harmony. Setting boundaries allows you to protect your energy and time, ensuring that you have space to rest, reflect, and recharge. These boundaries are not barriers, but frameworks that support your well-being, enabling you to show up fully for the commitments and relationships that matter most. Another important aspect of self-care in Buddhism is the practice of non-attachment. Many people view self-care through the lens of achieving specific results, such as looking a certain way or reaching a particular milestone. This outcome-driven approach can create pressure and dissatisfaction. Buddhism encourages you to focus on the process rather than the result, embracing self-care as a way of honoring yourself without clinging to expectations. This perspective frees you to engage in self-care with joy and presence, appreciating each moment without the weight of judgment. Resting the mind is equally vital in the practice of self-care. In today's fast-paced world, mental rest is often overlooked, yet it is essential for clarity and resilience. Buddhist practices such as meditation and mindfulness offer powerful tools for quieting the mind and finding stillness. When you take time to rest your thoughts, you create space for insight and renewal, reducing stress and fostering inner peace. This mental rest is not a luxury, but a necessity, allowing you to navigate life with greater awareness and intention. Self-care also involves cultivating gratitude for your body and mind. Often, people focus on what they perceive as flaws or limitations, overlooking the incredible gifts of their physical and mental capacities. Buddhism teaches that gratitude is a powerful antidote to dissatisfaction. By appreciating your body for what it allows you to do, and your mind for its ability to think and feel, you shift your perspective from criticism to appreciation. This gratitude enhances the effectiveness of self-care, turning it into an act of reverence rather than obligation. Another element of self-care as a spiritual practice is the recognition of interconnectedness. In Buddhism, the well-being of one impacts the well-being of all. When you care for yourself, you contribute to the harmony of the larger whole. This interconnectedness means that self-care is not just about you. It is about creating a ripple effect of positivity and balance. By prioritizing your well-being, you inspire and uplift those around you, demonstrating the value of self-care as a collective practice. Self-care also fosters resilience, which is essential for navigating life's challenges. Buddhism acknowledges that suffering is an inherent part of existence, but it also teaches that resilience can be cultivated through intentional practices. When you care for yourself, you build the physical, mental, and emotional strength needed to face difficulties with grace. This resilience is not about avoiding hardship, but about meeting it with the inner resources that self-care provides, allowing you to grow and learn from every experience. Self-care as a spiritual discipline emphasizes the importance of joy. In Buddhism, joy is considered one of the divine abodes, a state of mind that uplifts and nourishes the soul. When you engage in self-care, you create opportunities to experience joy in its many forms, whether through a quiet moment of meditation, a walk in nature, or time spent doing something you love. This joy is not superficial or fleeting. It is a deep sense of contentment that arises from honoring yourself and your needs. By integrating joy into your self-care practices, you create a life that feels rich, meaningful, and aligned with the teachings of Buddhism. Viewing self-care as a spiritual discipline reshapes how you approach your well-being. It becomes less about what you do and more about how you do it, mindfully, compassionately, and with an awareness of your place in the greater whole. This perspective transforms self-care from an act of maintenance into a practice of devotion, one that nurtures not only your body and mind, but also your spirit. It is a way of aligning with the deeper truths of Buddhism, creating a foundation for a life of balance, harmony, and inner peace. Caring for yourself as a spiritual practice naturally leads to a deeper understanding of how to protect the space and energy you create within. The act of self-care is incomplete without the ability to set healthy boundaries, those invisible lines that define where your responsibility ends and another's begins. Boundaries are not walls, but essential frameworks that uphold your self-respect, preserve your peace, and ensure that your energy is directed toward what truly matters. In Buddhist thought, boundaries are an extension of mindfulness and compassion, a way of honoring yourself while fostering harmony in relationships. Loving yourself lays the foundation for setting boundaries by helping you recognize your worth. When you respect yourself, you no longer feel the need to overextend or compromise your well-being to gain approval or avoid conflict. Buddhism teaches that respect for yourself is as vital as respect for others. It's an expression of the interconnectedness of all beings. If you neglect your own needs, you disrupt this balance, creating resentment and exhaustion that ripple into your relationships. By loving yourself, you align with the Buddhist principle of balance, ensuring that your actions honor both yourself and others. Boundaries are also deeply connected to mindfulness. In Buddhist practice, mindfulness helps you become aware of your needs, limits, and energy levels. When you are mindful, you can sense when something feels off, when you're giving too much, tolerating disrespect, or neglecting your own well-being. This awareness empowers you to take action, whether it's saying no, asking for space, or stepping away from a situation. Loving yourself fuels this mindfulness by encouraging you to prioritize your inner peace over external pressures, creating the clarity needed to identify and maintain boundaries. Self-love also reduces the guilt often associated with setting boundaries. Many people hesitate to set limits because they fear being perceived as selfish or unkind. Buddhism, however, reframes this perspective by emphasizing the importance of intention. If your intention is rooted in compassion for yourself and others, then setting boundaries is not an act of selfishness but of wisdom. By prioritizing your well-being, you ensure that you have the energy and presence to genuinely support others without depleting yourself. Loving yourself makes it easier to trust this process, replacing guilt with confidence in your choices. Boundaries also help protect you from the emotional suffering that arises from over-attachment. In Buddhism, attachment is a major source of dukkha, or suffering. When you become overly attached to pleasing others or maintaining relationships at any cost, you sacrifice your own needs and create inner conflict. Loving yourself teaches you to let go of these attachments, recognizing that true connection doesn't require self-sacrifice. Boundaries allow you to engage with others from a place of authenticity and freedom, reducing the emotional strain that comes from trying to be everything to everyone. Another way self-love supports boundary setting is by helping you recognize what truly matters. When you value yourself, you become more selective about where you invest your time and energy. Buddhism encourages this discernment, urging you to focus on actions and relationships that align with your values and contribute to your growth. Boundaries are a natural extension of this focus, helping you say no to distractions or demands that pull you away from your path. Loving yourself gives you the courage to prioritize what is meaningful, even when it requires difficult conversations or decisions. The practice of compassion also informs how you set boundaries. Loving yourself doesn't mean disregarding the needs of others. It means approaching relationships with honesty and care. When you set a boundary, it's an opportunity to communicate your needs while respecting the feelings of others. This compassionate approach aligns with Buddhist teachings on right speech, which emphasize clarity, kindness, and truthfulness. Loving yourself provides the emotional stability to express boundaries in a way that fosters understanding rather than conflict, creating healthier and more balanced relationships. Boundaries are also essential for preserving your inner peace, a core principle in Buddhism. When you allow others to overstep your limits, you create internal turbulence that disrupts your ability to remain calm and centered. Loving yourself involves recognizing that your peace is sacred and worth protecting. Boundaries act as a shield, preventing unnecessary stress and conflict from entering your life. This protection is not about avoidance, but about creating a space where you can thrive and engage with the world from a place of strength and clarity. Loving yourself also helps you navigate the challenges that arise when boundaries are tested. It's natural for others to resist or push against limits, especially if they've become accustomed to you saying yes or accommodating their needs. Buddhism teaches that resilience comes from within, rooted in a deep understanding of your values and intentions. When you love yourself, you're better equipped to hold firm in the face of resistance, trusting that your boundaries are an expression of self-respect rather than selfishness. This inner strength helps you remain steady and compassionate, even when others struggle to accept your limits. The process of setting boundaries also deepens your relationship with yourself. Each time you honor your needs, you reinforce the message that you are worthy of care and respect. This affirmation strengthens your self-love, creating a positive cycle that enhances your well-being and relationships. Buddhism encourages this inner alignment, teaching that harmony within leads to harmony in the world around you. By setting boundaries, you cultivate this harmony, creating a life that feels balanced and aligned with your deepest values. Self-love also shifts your perspective on conflict, which is often a barrier to setting boundaries. Many people avoid boundaries because they fear confrontation or rejection. Buddhism, however, teaches that conflict is not inherently negative. It's an opportunity for growth and understanding. Loving yourself helps you approach conflict with curiosity rather than fear, viewing it as a chance to communicate your truth and strengthen your relationships. This perspective reduces the anxiety surrounding boundaries, making it easier to advocate for yourself with confidence and grace. Boundaries also play a crucial role in protecting your energy. In a world filled with constant demands and distractions, it's easy to become overwhelmed or depleted. Loving yourself means recognizing your limits and taking steps to preserve your vitality. Buddhism emphasizes the importance of energy management, urging you to invest your resources wisely. Boundaries help you honor this principle by ensuring that your energy is directed toward what nourishes and supports you, rather than being drained by unnecessary obligations or toxic relationships. Loving yourself transforms the way you view boundaries as a whole. Instead of seeing them as restrictions, you begin to see them as acts of care and empowerment. Boundaries are not about keeping people out, but about creating space for connection, growth, and mutual respect. They are a way of honoring both yourself and the people in your life, fostering relationships that are healthy, balanced, and grounded in compassion. Loving yourself makes it easier to embrace this perspective, allowing you to set boundaries with clarity, confidence, and kindness. Setting healthy boundaries through self-love provides a profound sense of clarity and balance, allowing you to protect your inner peace and foster meaningful relationships. This naturally leads to a deeper question: how does self-love coexist with the humility that Buddhism teaches, especially when detaching from ego? The journey of balancing self-love and humility invites you to navigate the delicate line between valuing yourself and remaining grounded in the understanding that you are not separate from the greater whole. True self-love in Buddhism is not about inflating the ego, but about nurturing your essence while recognizing the interconnectedness of all life. Humility and self-love are not opposites, but complementary forces. In Buddhist philosophy, humility arises from seeing yourself clearly, unclouded by pride or self-deprecation. Loving yourself does not conflict with this clarity, it supports it. When you love yourself authentically, you acknowledge your worth without feeling the need to elevate yourself above others. This creates an internal harmony where you can appreciate your uniqueness without falling into arrogance. Self-love reinforces humility by grounding you in the understanding that every being shares the same intrinsic value, encouraging respect for yourself and others alike. Humility in Buddhism is deeply connected to ego detachment. The ego thrives on comparison, constantly measuring your worth against others. Without self-love, the ego's need for validation can become overwhelming, leading to insecurity or superiority. However, when self-love is rooted in compassion and mindfulness, it quiets the ego's voice. Loving yourself allows you to detach from the need for external affirmation, creating a sense of inner stability that makes humility possible. This detachment doesn't erase your individuality, it liberates you from the constraints of needing to prove it. Balancing self-love and humility also involves embracing your imperfections. Humility flourishes when you accept that you are not perfect, nor are you meant to be. Self-love aligns with this acceptance by encouraging you to treat your flaws with kindness rather than criticism. Buddhism teaches that imperfection is part of the human condition, and resisting it only leads to suffering. Loving yourself through this lens means acknowledging your limitations without judgment, creating a space where humility and self-compassion coexist. Another way self-love and humility work together is through the practice of gratitude. Gratitude shifts your focus from what you lack to what you have, fostering a sense of contentment and interconnectedness. When you love yourself, you naturally feel grateful for the qualities and experiences that make you who you are. This gratitude, in turn, nurtures humility by reminding you that much of what you cherish, your abilities, opportunities, and relationships, is not entirely your doing, but part of a larger web of interdependence. This realization deepens your appreciation for life while grounding your self-love in humility. Humility also grows when you shift from self-centeredness to self-awareness. Self-love encourages you to look inward, not to glorify yourself, but to understand your emotions, needs, and patterns. This awareness helps you see how your actions affect others, fostering empathy and reducing selfish tendencies. Buddhism teaches that true humility comes from understanding your place in the interconnected web of existence. Loving yourself equips you with the emotional strength to explore this understanding without fear, allowing you to embrace humility as a natural extension of self-awareness. Letting go of the ego also involves recognizing that self-love is not about separation, but connection. The ego often creates a sense of division, making you feel isolated or superior. Buddhism counters this by teaching that all beings are interconnected. Loving yourself within this framework means seeing your value as part of the collective whole, not as something that sets you apart. This perspective dissolves the barriers created by ego, fostering humility and a deeper sense of unity with others. Compassion is another bridge between self-love and humility. When you love yourself, you cultivate compassion for your own struggles and growth. This compassion naturally extends outward, allowing you to see others through a lens of understanding rather than judgment. Humility thrives in this space of shared humanity, where you recognize that everyone is navigating their own journey. Self-love strengthens your capacity for compassion, ensuring that humility is not rooted in self-denial, but in genuine care for yourself and others. Humility also requires letting go of the need for control, which the ego often clings to. Self-love supports this release by helping you trust in your own resilience and adaptability. When you love yourself, you no longer feel the need to control every aspect of your life to prove your worth. This trust allows you to surrender to the flow of life with humility, recognizing that you are a part of something much greater than yourself. Buddhism teaches that this surrender is not a loss, but a path to true freedom, where humility and self-love coexist in harmony. Balancing self-love and humility also involves redefining success. The ego often ties success to external achievements or recognition, creating a cycle of striving that can overshadow inner fulfillment. Self-love shifts this perspective, encouraging you to measure success by your growth, authenticity, and well-being. Buddhism reinforces this idea by emphasizing the importance of right intention and effort over outcomes. Loving yourself in this way allows you to celebrate your progress without arrogance, grounding your sense of accomplishment in humility and gratitude. Another key aspect of this balance is accepting help from others. The ego may resist asking for support, viewing it as a sign of weakness. However, both self-love and humility recognize the strength in vulnerability. Loving yourself means understanding that you are deserving of care and support, while humility acknowledges that no one can navigate life alone. Buddhism encourages interdependence, teaching that seeking help is not a failure, but a recognition of our shared humanity. This openness strengthens your connections with others, enriching both your self-love and humility. Practicing humility and self-love also involves letting go of comparison. The ego thrives on measuring your worth against others, creating feelings of superiority or inadequacy. Self-love frees you from this cycle by teaching you to honor your unique path without judgment. Buddhism reinforces this freedom by reminding you that comparison is rooted in the illusion of separateness. When you let go of this illusion, you embrace humility as a natural expression of self-love. appreciating both your own journey and the journeys of others without competition or envy. Self-love and humility come together in the practice of service. Buddhism teaches that serving others is a path to enlightenment, as it dissolves the ego and nurtures compassion. Loving yourself provides the foundation for this service, ensuring that you give from a place of abundance rather than depletion. When you care for yourself, you have the energy and capacity to uplift others without losing yourself in the process. This balance allows humility to flourish, as your actions are guided by genuine kindness rather than the need for recognition. Balancing self-love and humility is a dynamic practice, one that evolves as you deepen your understanding of yourself and the world around you. It requires mindfulness, compassion, and a willingness to let go of the ego's illusions. Through this balance, you discover a profound sense of harmony, where loving yourself enhances your connection to others, and humility enriches your relationship with yourself. This harmony is at the heart of Buddhist teachings, a reminder that true growth comes not from elevating yourself, but from embracing your place within the interconnected web of life. Recognizing the harmony between self-love and humility paves the way for a deeper exploration of inner peace and independence. When humility and self-respect align, they create fertile ground for one of Buddhism's most profound teachings: inner contentment. Contentment is not about settling or giving up on growth. It is about finding a steady, unshakable sense of fulfillment that does not depend on external circumstances. Loving yourself deeply and unconditionally allows you to tap into this state, fostering a life that is both self-sufficient and enriched with meaning. Inner contentment begins with understanding that happiness does not come from acquiring or achieving, but from a mindset rooted in gratitude and acceptance. Buddhism teaches that craving is the root of suffering, as it creates a constant cycle of wanting and dissatisfaction. Loving yourself breaks this cycle by helping you recognize that you are enough as you are. This realization dissolves the restlessness of craving and replaces it with a calm sense of satisfaction. Contentment in this sense is not about having less, but about needing less, freeing you to experience the richness of the present moment. Self-sufficiency grows when you learn to meet your own emotional needs. Many people look outward for validation, reassurance, or fulfillment, only to feel empty when those external sources fall short. Buddhism encourages turning inward, cultivating a relationship with yourself that is nurturing and whole. Loving yourself allows you to become your own source of encouragement and comfort, reducing the reliance on others to fill emotional gaps. This self-reliance does not mean isolation. It means showing up in relationships as a complete person, free from the weight of unmet needs or expectations. Contentment also emerges when you embrace the simplicity of life. In a world that often equates worth with productivity or material success, it's easy to feel pressured to do more or have more. Loving yourself helps you step back from this mindset, reminding you that your value is not tied to your possessions or achievements. Buddhism teaches that simplicity is a path to freedom, allowing you to focus on what truly matters. By letting go of unnecessary complexities, you create space for contentment to take root, nurturing a sense of peace that external success cannot provide. Another key to inner contentment is accepting impermanence. Buddhism emphasizes that all things are transient, and resisting this truth only creates suffering. Loving yourself involves embracing change as a natural part of life, trusting in your ability to adapt and grow. This trust reduces the fear and anxiety that often accompany uncertainty, allowing you to find contentment even in the midst of change. By aligning with the flow of life, rather than fighting against it, you cultivate a resilience that deepens your sense of fulfillment. Inner contentment also requires freeing yourself from comparison. Comparing your life, achievements, or appearance to others only fuels dissatisfaction and envy. Loving yourself shifts your focus inward, helping you appreciate your unique journey without judgment. Buddhism teaches that comparison arises from the illusion of separateness, which blinds you to the interconnected beauty of all paths. By releasing this illusion, you can celebrate your individuality while finding joy in the success and happiness of others, creating a sense of contentment that is both personal and expansive. Gratitude plays a transformative role in cultivating contentment. When you focus on what you have rather than what you lack, you open your heart to the abundance of the present moment. Loving yourself nurtures gratitude by encouraging you to recognize and appreciate your strengths, experiences, and blessings. This practice aligns with Buddhist teachings on mindfulness, which invite you to savor the richness of life without taking it for granted. Gratitude deepens your sense of contentment, turning ordinary moments into sources of profound joy. Self-sufficiency also involves setting boundaries that protect your peace and energy. When you overextend yourself or say yes out of obligation, you drain your inner reserves and disrupt your sense of balance. Loving yourself empowers you to honor your limits, creating a life that feels manageable and fulfilling. Buddhism supports this practice by emphasizing the importance of balance and moderation. By setting boundaries, you create the conditions for contentment to flourish, ensuring that your efforts align with your values and well-being. Forgiveness is another essential element of inner contentment. Holding on to resentment or regret creates an inner tension that prevents peace. Loving yourself means releasing these burdens, forgiving both yourself and others for past mistakes. Buddhism teaches that forgiveness is an act of liberation, freeing you from the chains of the past and allowing you to move forward with lightness. This practice not only reduces suffering but also creates the emotional space needed for contentment to grow. Contentment also requires cultivating a sense of purpose. While loving yourself means accepting who you are in the present, it also involves nurturing your potential and contributing to the world in meaningful ways. Buddhism teaches that purpose arises from living in alignment with your values and intentions. When you engage in actions that reflect your authentic self, you create a sense of fulfillment that goes beyond fleeting pleasure. Loving yourself provides the clarity and confidence to pursue this purpose, enriching your life with depth and direction. Another way self-love fosters contentment is by helping you build resilience. Life is filled with challenges, but loving yourself equips you with the inner resources needed to navigate them. Resilience is not about avoiding difficulty, but about facing it with courage and grace. Buddhism encourages seeing challenges as opportunities for growth, and self-love reinforces this perspective by reminding you of your strength and worth. This resilience allows you to find contentment even in the midst of adversity, as you trust in your ability to overcome and adapt. Contentment also grows when you practice non-attachment. Clinging to outcomes, relationships, or possessions creates anxiety and dissatisfaction, as these things are impermanent. Loving yourself involves letting go of this clinging, trusting that your worth and happiness are not dependent on external factors. Buddhism teaches that non-attachment is not about detachment from life, but about engaging with it fully, without the fear of loss. This mindset creates a deep sense of freedom and contentment as you learn to appreciate life without needing to control it. Mindfulness is a cornerstone of inner contentment. When you live mindfully, you experience life as it unfolds, free from the distractions of past regrets or future worries. Loving yourself encourages this presence as it shifts your focus from what could be to what is. Buddhism teaches that the present moment is the only place where life truly exists, and mindfulness helps you savor its beauty and richness. This practice deepens your contentment, allowing you to find joy and peace in the here and now. Inner contentment is about recognizing that you are already whole. Many people seek fulfillment outside themselves, believing that happiness lies in achieving or acquiring something. Buddhism counters this belief by teaching that everything you need is already within you. Loving yourself helps you embrace this truth, freeing you from the endless pursuit of external validation. This realization transforms your relationship with yourself and the world, creating a life that feels full, independent, and deeply satisfying. When inner contentment takes root, it becomes impossible to confine the peace and fulfillment it brings. The harmony you nurture within yourself has a natural way of extending outward, influencing everything it touches. Self-love, grounded in the principles of Buddhism, is not just a personal transformation, but a force that shapes the world around you. As your heart becomes lighter and your mind calmer, your interactions with others begin to shift, spreading kindness and compassion. This ripple effect, while subtle, is profound, showing how one person's self-love can become a source of collective healing and connection. The transformation begins with the energy you carry. When you treat yourself with love and compassion, you exude a calm and welcoming presence. This energy, though invisible, is deeply felt by those around you. People sense when someone carries peace within themselves, and this sense draws them closer. In Buddhism, the concept of loving kindness reflects this idea. By cultivating love for yourself, you generate a kind of emotional gravity that fosters warmth, trust, and connection in your relationships. This creates a harmonious environment where others feel safe and valued, simply because you have first extended that care to yourself. Self-love also impacts the way you communicate. When you value and respect yourself, you naturally begin to speak with clarity, authenticity, and kindness. Your words are no longer driven by defensiveness or a need to prove yourself, but by a desire to connect and uplift. Buddhism teaches the principle of right speech, which involves speaking truthfully, gently, and with purpose. Loving yourself aligns with this practice, as it removes the insecurities that often lead to harmful or reactive communication. As a result, your interactions become more constructive and compassionate, fostering deeper understanding and stronger bonds. Another way self-love creates a ripple effect is by inspiring others to care for themselves. When people witness your self-respect and balance, it encourages them to reflect on their own relationship with themselves. This is not about imposing your practices on others, but about leading by example. Buddhism emphasizes that transformation begins within and then radiates outward. By showing what it means to honor your own needs and boundaries, you give others permission to do the same, sparking a chain reaction of self-compassion and growth. The ripple effect also extends to how you handle conflict. When you love yourself, you approach challenges with a sense of calm and resilience, rather than fear or aggression. This shifts the dynamics of conflict, making it easier to find solutions that respect everyone involved. Buddhism teaches that clinging to anger or resentment only deepens suffering, both for yourself and others. Self-love helps you release these negative emotions, allowing you to engage in conflicts with an open heart and a clear mind. This approach not only resolves issues more peacefully, but also fosters a culture of understanding and cooperation. Your self-love also influences the way you give to others. Without a foundation of self-care, giving can sometimes feel draining or obligatory, leading to resentment or burnout. However, when you love yourself, your giving becomes an expression of abundance rather than sacrifice. Buddhism encourages generosity, but it also stresses the importance of balance. Loving yourself ensures that your acts of kindness come from a genuine place, making them more impactful and sustainable. This kind of giving inspires gratitude and joy, creating a positive feedback loop that benefits both you and those you help. The choices you make also carry the ripple effect of self-love. When you prioritize your well-being, you begin to make decisions that align with your values and purpose. These decisions often have far-reaching consequences, influencing not only your own life, but also the lives of those around you. For example, choosing to pursue work that fulfills you or engaging in activities that bring you joy can inspire others to seek the same for themselves. Buddhism teaches that every action is interconnected, and loving yourself allows you to act with integrity and intention, amplifying your positive impact. Your emotional stability is another area where self-love creates ripples. When you are at peace within yourself, you become a source of stability for others. This is especially valuable in times of uncertainty or crisis. Your calm presence can reassure and guide those who may feel lost or overwhelmed. Buddhism often likens a steady mind to a still pond, reflecting the world clearly without distortion. When you cultivate self-love, you become that still pond for others, offering clarity and comfort simply through your presence. Self-love also enhances your capacity for empathy. When you treat yourself with kindness, you become more attuned to the struggles and emotions of others. This empathy creates deeper connections and fosters a sense of community. Buddhism teaches that compassion is born from understanding, and loving yourself is the first step in developing this understanding. By recognizing your own vulnerabilities and strengths, you become more equipped to support others in theirs, creating a network of care and mutual respect. The way you handle success and failure also influences those around you. Self-love helps you celebrate your achievements without arrogance and accept your mistakes without shame. This balanced approach serves as a powerful example to others, showing that worth is not tied to external outcomes. Buddhism emphasizes equanimity, the ability to remain steady regardless of circumstances. When you embody this principle through self-love, you encourage others to adopt a similar perspective, reducing the collective pressure to perform or achieve at all costs. Self-love also impacts the environment you create, whether at home, work, or within your community. When you prioritize kindness, respect, and mindfulness in your own life, these values naturally permeate the spaces you inhabit. Buddhism teaches that the external world reflects the internal state, and by cultivating inner harmony, you contribute to a more harmonious external environment. This ripple effect may manifest in small ways, like fostering a positive atmosphere at work, or in larger ways, like inspiring community initiatives that promote well-being. Another profound ripple effect of self-love is the reduction of harm. When you love yourself, you are less likely to engage in actions that cause harm to yourself or others. This includes not only physical harm, but also emotional and relational harm. Buddhism emphasizes non-harming, or ahimsa, as a core principle. Loving yourself aligns with this principle by fostering a sense of care and responsibility for your actions. This reduces the cycles of conflict and negativity that often arise from unintentional harm, creating a more peaceful and compassionate world. Finally, self-love transforms the way you view humanity as a whole. When you nurture compassion for yourself, you begin to see others through a lens of shared humanity rather than division. This perspective dissolves prejudice, judgment, and fear, replacing them with understanding and acceptance. Buddhism teaches that all beings are interconnected, and loving yourself allows you to experience this truth on a profound level. This shift in perspective creates ripples that extend far beyond individual relationships, contributing to a world where kindness and unity prevail. The ripple effect of self-love is a testament to the interconnected nature of existence. It shows how inner harmony is not confined to the self, but radiates outward, touching lives in ways you may never fully see or understand. By loving yourself, you not only transform your own life, but also become a catalyst for positive change in the world around you. This is the essence of Buddhism's teachings on compassion and interconnectedness. That the care you give to yourself is never just for you, but for the benefit of all. Loving yourself is not a selfish act. It is one of the most profound expressions of compassion, balance, and interconnectedness. Through the lens of Buddhism, we've explored how self-love isn't about indulgence or ego, but about aligning with your true nature, creating inner harmony, and contributing positively to the world. From cultivating self-compassion and setting healthy boundaries to embracing humility, self-care, and gratitude, loving yourself is a sacred discipline that transforms not only your life, but also the lives of those around you. When you honor yourself with kindness and respect, you empower others to do the same. When you quiet the harsh inner critic, you make space for peace and growth. And when you radiate love from within, it ripples outward, touching the people and communities around you. In Buddhism, this interconnected love reminds us that caring for ourselves and the world are inseparable acts. What resonated most with you? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your perspective could inspire someone else on their journey. If you found this meaningful, consider subscribing to the channel and joining a community that seeks wisdom and growth together. Don't forget to hit the bell so you never miss content that nurtures your soul. Let's keep exploring, growing, and walking this path of love and compassion together.